9-game NBA DFS slate. It's potentially a chaos slate on layaway. Of course, the trade deadline is tomorrow. Lots of names thrown out there. Trade deadline officially, less than 24 hours away at this point. Finishes. Yeah, the closing of the trade deadline. Will your Hornets probably will be at least somewhat busy. Maybe the Plum Dog, no more millionaire anymore. I think he's likely to go. We'll see. Jakob Poeltl, plenty of guys on this slate potentially going to get traded. If not today, tomorrow, stay tuned. We might see some wonkiness, some goofiness. Lots of players are currently questionable as well. Well, it's the start of 2+ hours NBA DFS conversation. We yielded a crunch time crew. 6:15, 6:20 now. They get a little more extra time. You got Andy Means, you got TJ Zwarych in the bullpen. Roth, of course, holds that down. And you're working double duty today, right? You're coming back after crunch time. Maybe we'll mention later on the show, but the NFL show, the NFL pick show, the big game. Can we say what it's actually called? I'm not sure. Copyright, we're gonna get struck. Is the NFL watching? You're going to give some hot takes, some gambling picks for the people for Sunday, right?
Well, I don't know if it's going to be hot takes per se, but I definitely want to help people put money in their pockets. At Dean, I'm actually so excited to be in Tennessee. And I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but I actually planned my trip all wrong. I mean, I did a terrible job planning my trip. I should have planned my trip to get there on like a Thursday, which would have been tomorrow. And I could have maybe done my show at the office or something like that, or at least Friday, and maybe left on like Tuesday or Wednesday. Here's why, Dean. Tennessee has sports books.
Yep.
I live in a state that does not. So I've got to try to get all of my stuff done in basically a 3-day period. Saturday, which is another reason why I'm excited to get there early Saturday before probably hardly anybody's up. Stores are open. I will be there. Laptop will be charged, plugged in, ready to go, so I can take advantage of all these great offers that RotoGrinders has with a lot of these companies. So I'm thrilled about that. So it's so glad that I'll be able to see everyone, and I will be participating in everything that I talk about tonight across various sports books. So it's so exciting, and I am going to take some shots. I told some guys in the prop shop I will be taking a shot on a big one. Now I'm saying I'm going to keep my normal unit, Dean, of course, but I'm going to have some 20-leg parlay or something. What? That's going to be my own personal GPP. And if it wins, then great. If not, I won't care. But I have to do it. I have to do this, Dean.
That's Andre's turf. Did you let him know you're infringing? That's his thing.
I'm not infringing. I'm not even going to post it. I'm just going to play it.
Nobody else is allowed to do 20 layers but Andre. He's still chasing that million. He won $1 million already in DFS. He wants to win $1 million in sports gambling as well.
Yeah.
So what, 7 o'clock, basically? I'm sure they're still talking to NBA, but that show is just going to bridge seamlessly into the RotoGrinders Scores and Odds Super Bowl betting breakdown show. You're going to pop back in as well as Head Chopper, I believe. We actually have a picture that shows people's faces. Producer Steve can show who's going to be on that show. I think Bindfor is going to be on it as well. By the way, Bindfor going to be on the Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio show on the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, as well as myself, as well as Beer Makers fan. And Dan Bach is going to be on this weekend. He's coming back as well. So, if the people are not aware, the news is out. Sirius XM RotoGrinders were back. We were there several years ago. Channel 87, I believe it is, Saturday, 3 to 5. It's going to be Saturdays, Sundays for now. It's like, the weekends. But, super excited about that. You guys can call in. We're not exactly sure what the format is. It's going to depend upon what's going on that particular day. Probably some best ball as well. But, check out the football show, 7 o'clock later tonight. By the way, I am coming in on Thursday. And I, too, am in a state where you cannot legally wager on sports. So I go right to, and I'm company man here, Will. You go to RotoGrinders.com. You go to U.S. states. You click on, we're going to be in Tennessee. Click on Tennessee, and they show all the deposit bonuses are right there. $1,000 first bet offer, MGM. Click that banner. Get a no-sweat first bet up to $3,000 for FanDuel Sportsbook. Okay, I'll take that. Sure. Caesars, up to $1,250. Win bet $100. Hard Rock. Hard Rock up to $5,000 mystery wheel spin. Wow. Okay. I'm down to spin the wheel, I guess. But all right, let's do it. And not only am I coming in on Thursday, Will, I bought a one-way ticket because I want to make sure I stick around long enough to sports wager as much as possible. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see when we get back. But I'm going to be crashing on Devin's couch. He doesn't even know it yet. Don't tell Devin, but I'm crashing on his couch. I'm good with cats. So yeah. Yeah. Will, Twitter, TweetDeck is down for me. I've gotten fully flustered. No TweetDeck, but I assume Twitter is working. Come on, Elon. Let's see. Is Twitter working as far as body parts? News out because we're supposed to get some trade news and stuff like that. I guess Twitter's working, but TweetDeck, let me know in chat. Is your TweetDeck also broken, or is that just my TweetDeck? Yeah. What's up, chat? Hit that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications, hit all the things. Tickle the up button, whatever your ad of choice happens to be. TJ will be on later. He'll yell at you guys, or probably yell at me for not enough likes, but it's not my fault. I can only do so much. I want to ask for like an overview as far as this slate. We're doing a 9-game. We're going to break it down game by game, but it's tricky, right? Because there's a lot of stuff that just we're kind of waiting for. Embiid, I feel really confident he plays tonight. He's questionable with his foot. It's a national TV game against Boston. Really feel like he plays. Big body Keldon Johnson, I don't know. Gobert back half of back-to-back. Minnesota was horrendous last night. He's questionable. A couple big men for Boston. Horford and Williams are both questionable. I think they play. I'm pretty sure they're off tomorrow, so it's not one of those like they rest one day and they swap out.
But sometimes they do that, though, Dean. They will rest one and then rest the other one the next day. From time to time, they do that.
So they do, but I think that they didn't play yesterday, and I'm pretty sure. I meant to double check this. I'm pretty sure
they're not playing tomorrow is what you're saying. I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't play tomorrow. They didn't play yesterday, so I assume that they're both going to go. But stay tuned. Maybe there's legitimately something going on there. The debut of Kyrie tonight in Los Angeles, that's going down. Christian Wood might get traded at some point. Really, really weird what they did with him the first game back, where they didn't start him and he played 18 minutes. Like, what was the point? Certainly wasn't a showcase game if you believe in such things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything you want to mention before we kind of go in? And the Cleveland guys, that's the first game, right? That one certainly screams like maybe we can just rest. We can rest our guys against Detroit. Garland's got a thumb. He's questionable. Mitchell's got a groin. He's questionable. The Garland thing is real. Pretty sure that thing is real because I was watching the game. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago where he hurt himself in the fourth quarter? I'm pretty sure that's a real injury. I don't know. I'm not all
today's NBA, Dean. It's so funny. You've got to specify that we do think this is a real injury. Like, it's so funny.
Yeah. Let's see.
It's not maintenance. It's a real injury.
Yeah. I mean, the maintenance thing is. I think Jamal Murray got maintenance the other day, and like again, he hadn't played for several days, and Denver doesn't play today. But they're all about it's. The secret is out. Like the regular season doesn't really mean anything as a big picture. Like, duh, it's fun and it's entertaining, and I think it's a good game here and there and all that kind of stuff. But the good teams are going to be in the playoffs, and then we'll figure it out when we get there. But it really doesn't mean anything. Boston's going to play Philadelphia tonight. It'll be a fun game. Does it really matter who wins? Not really. They're both going to be in the playoffs. Maybe they'll meet each other. But yeah, you got anything else as far as that we're monitoring? Do you want to say?
No, I think we're good. Now, I will say this, Dean. It would not surprise me if, as we got closer to lock, we start seeing some of these phantom injuries that with guys that will sit that are in possible trade talks. Like you mentioned, Mason Plumlee. It wouldn't be surprising to me if suddenly he had a sore foot and sat tonight. You know what I'm saying? Like some of those type guys.
Absolutely.
Because if a team's planning on trading them, they don't want them to get hurt tonight before they get to the new team, possibly tomorrow. So that could come into play today. It's definitely going to be in play tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow though we'll know, right? Because the trade deadline, I believe, is like 4 Eastern when it ends.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
So
how many games are there tomorrow? Maybe 4. It's not a lot, I don't think.
It's a light schedule. There's 4 games, 3 games. Yeah. Or Denver, Orlando, Phoenix, Atlanta, Chicago, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and the Lakers. The game that LeBron was supposed to break the record. At least a lot of people wanted that to happen there. Back half of the TNT doubleheader. But I audibly like applauded. Like I was excited watching that. I was shocked. I never do that, but I was like, oh wow, it was exciting. Did you happen to watch when he like? Of course he was going to do it. Like duh. Because no, in what world does he not get it done? But I don't know. I thought it was kind of fun. Did you watch? Did you care to watch the LeBron break Kareem's record?
Well, I'm going to go back and watch it. I do like the historical part of the game, and so I'm going to go back and watch it. I didn't have a chance to watch it the other night. I was doing something else. But here's what I've also done, Dean. I've avoided sports media talking about it. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go and watch it myself in my own time, and then I'll hop back into the sports media folks talking about it.
Yeah, I'll just say, I'm sure that, of course, like the first takes of the world probably like, well, does this now mean that LeBron is better than anytime you can hype up that conversation, you have to fill 2 hours of arguing, right? So if you're a producer of that show, all right, here we do. Let's do it. Take 47 on LeBron versus Jordan. Jordan didn't play last night, for the record. And they stopped the game, and this is the biggest record in the game, so they kind of sort of had to, but they gave a speech. LeBron gave a speech. I just want to know, would this have happened if there was a minute left in the game? Because that would have been wild. If they're down by 50, let's say they're down by 50, and he does it with 30 seconds left to go. Did he just halt the game? They got to get the ball out.
They were definitely going to halt the game. So look, yeah. I do understand the. So see, this is where it gets, I think, funky for people. But if you played sports, you understand. In high school, if a guy scores 1,000 points, the game gets stopped. Now it's not going to get stopped for 5 minutes, but they'll stop it. They'll give him that ball, right? He'll take a picture with the coach or his teammates, and then the game gets back going. Because there are certain milestones that are neat, and I think they want to recognize those guys. So I'm not against them stopping the game. Now, here's what I will say: if it's 10 seconds left in the game, just let it play out, and then we can do it at the end. You know what I mean? He could have his speed.
Yeah, I feel like there might have been contingency plans sort of worked out, but Kareem came out. It was cool. They had a nice moment with Kareem. People were upset that they stopped the game, but again, back to my original point, these games don't matter. The game doesn't really matter. People didn't come. The game's cool and all, but that's not. Let him have his moment. This is the biggest record in the game. It's okay. We can stop the game for 15 minutes. Where's everybody going? All right. I see B Shot in the chat did not like it. Several people in chat said they did not like the fact they stopped the game, the video and the speech. I don't know, man. Most influential player, certainly in this generation. You can argue, on the Mount Rushmore for sure of influential, but I didn't care. It did not bother me. I thought it was cool. And they had produced commercials, and a lot of people gave speeches. It was a whole thing. It was good. All right. Let's talk about tonight's slate.
Yeah, let's talk. I'm excited.
The best way we can. I hope you're excited to talk about the Pistons, because I am not. 221 is the total. Detroit is in Cleveland. Cleveland's an 11-point favorite currently. Again, we don't really know about Cleveland. The big deal is, obviously, Donovan Mitchell's got that groin and Garland's got that thumb. They're both questionable. Rubio expected back. If they don't go, it's Karis LeVert season. Duh. We have a what if, I assume. Yes, I would imagine. And that's going to confirm that Karis LeVert is going to turn into potentially one of the best plays on the slate. If those guys happen to sit, we'll know because it's a 7:00 game. But, Detroit, you want to roster any Pistons tonight? Possibly Bogdanovich is on the block. That's been rumored out there. Supposedly they want to keep him, which is
they gave him an extension for what it's worth. So if they trade him, the team's got to pick that up.
But when the Pistons in their brain are theoretically good, is Bogdanovich on that team? I don't think so. I know he's been fine, and it's not his fault they're horrendous necessarily. But
I get it. But my point is, with the extension, it's going to make it harder to trade him.
Yeah, so just monitor that. Burks is another guy. I feel like Burks, but again, a lot of these guys, I don't want to put the fear out there because only a couple of these are going to hit, if any. 90% of the alleged trades out there never happen anyway, so it's just nonsense conversation. But there you go. If you want to have an alarm of a potential guy getting traded, Bogdanovich maybe, Burks maybe. As far as ownership, and again, this stuff's going to flip tremendously if we lose Mitchell, if we lose Garland, LeVert. Either way, LeVert's going to look better. Both bigs look fine as well for Cleveland, Mobley and Allen. Potential blowouts. I don't want anybody in Detroit as things stand right now. Do you want to argue for any Pistons?
Zero shares for me from Detroit unless something drastic happens. I will say Ivy at 5,500 isn't like the worst play, but I'm still at the present time. I'm not playing anyone from Detroit. Now, if Garland and Mitchell sit, I think both sides get a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this one might be better off to revisit later on in the show, like if we get news. But as of right now, there's not a lot we can say. Do you have a favorite Cav? Like, it's like everybody's in. Do you love any of the Cavs here? I think Allen's a really strong play on DK at 6'9". Mobley at 7'2" is fine. Ownership wise, 19%, not 9%. But
I talked about this the other day, Dean. It feels like Cleveland has kind of turned into a balanced scoring team, and that's fantasy points, real points, rebounding, assisting. So earlier this season, Donovan Mitchell had what felt like an immense scoring role on this team, where you could pretty much count on him for 25 to 35 real points per night. And that seemingly, and maybe it's for injury or maybe it's break, but that seemingly has tailed off with the emergence of Evan Mobley playing better. And so the team itself, I think I looked at the box score from the other night with the starters. I think almost everybody had 20 points, Dean. Almost everyone had 20. Cleveland. What's that?
They're a good team. I like the Cleveland team. I'm not sure what their feeling is.
But as a result of that,
I like this group, though.
You can't really play anyone unless somebody's out. And that's really where I'm headed with it. I'm not thrilled about this game in general. Garland and Mitchell sit, totally different discussion. And I think we can peel back the layers of that onion after we get some concrete news.
Yeah, we can circle back if need be. Cleveland currently sitting in the 4 spot in the East. They would play against Brooklyn in round 1 if the playoffs were to start today. Who wins that series? Well, Brooklyn's going to change their team up, possibly, maybe. But I think Cleveland's favored to win that series. Not sure.
I think as presently constructed right now, I would say Cleveland. KD comes back and the team gets rolling. Because Dinwiddie's not going to be too much drop off from Kyrie with KD there. You get what I'm saying? With KD out, of course, not having Kyrie, I think is a lot more drop off. But
what about Cam Thomas though? He's the greatest player in the NBA, is my understanding.
Yeah, no. Cam Thomas is playing fine, but I'm saying as a team, they're going to need all the pieces to get to the big dance. You're not gonna go all the way unless Cam Thomas is playing well, Dinwiddie's playing well. Dorian Finney-Smith has got to be playing well. That team has got to be playing well. As of right now, I take Cleveland presently constructed until we see how the Brooklyn Nets are gonna get in this thing. Don't forget about Ben Simmons, who's another part of that team. Just so many weird things are happening. And
they're a really good defensive team. Yeah. I'm sure other people have said this too. But yeah, that'll be a great defensive series, actually. Cleveland, if it would happen, Cleveland against Brooklyn. Yeah, that'll be really interesting. But again, these teams are probably going to change anyways. I think Brooklyn will. But all right, let's move on. Let's talk about the Charlotte Hornets. Your Charlotte Hornets,
yes,
against the Washington Wizards. 235.5 is the total. Charlotte is a 4-point dog here. Charlotte pretty healthy. Oubre is still out. Cody Martin's still out. Otherwise, they're good to go. Washington, I don't know what we could say about him right now. It's a bunch of if-then stuff. Monte Morris is questionable with his back. The two big ones, of course, Bradley Beal's got a foot. Kyle Kuzma has an ankle. They're both currently questionable. We'll know at some point. If we don't know, crunch time will know. But, do the best you can as far as tackling, the Washington side. It's a good matchup here against your Hornets. You could just do the math. If both Beal and Kuzma are out, first of all, Porzingis will become a really, really strong big spend. We would probably get some value opening up as well. Your thoughts as far as the Wiz, do the best you can, again, with the knowledge we have currently, which is not a lot. It's murky.
Yeah, I think no matter what, you can play Kristaps Porzingis in this spot against the Hornets. So I like Porzingis regardless. If Kuzma's out and Beal are out, then of course, I mean, you got Denny who's going to slide in and be a fantastic play here against the Hornets. You'll probably have a little bit of Corey Kispert who may be a better play. DeLon Wright, guys like that. But the big one, I think Kristaps Porzingis, Daniel Gafford, those would be the top two plays for me, or top three, if those guys sit. Now, if everybody's in, I still like Porzingis, but I'm not as thrilled about the other pieces.
Dude, I just tried to retweet something on Twitter. It said, sorry, you've exceeded your retweet maximum. What? Elon, what's going on? I've not retweeted anything today. I barely tweeted in the last several days. What's going on here, Will? I can't. There's a maximum number of retweets I have. What is? I hit a quota. Okay, something's going on with Twitter. I believe maybe I'm losing my mind. Okay, Twitter is currently down according to chat. Something's going on. Okay, thank you for letting me know. Producer Steve, if you happen to find out who's in and who's out, because we need Twitter. What did people do before Twitter? How did we figure out who was playing and who wasn't playing? Oh man.
Well, I mean, we scoured the internet for news. And indeed for me, I've read a lot more like local papers, Charlotte Observer, stuff like that. No, seriously,
time constraint.
What's that?
Time. It's a time constraint. What's the guy's name? You're making me think of the guy's name.
The Bleacher Report was still around. Like you could hop on Bleacher Report, scroll through the news. There were things out there.
Rick Bonnell, that was the guy. That was the main guy, right? The Charles Observer.
Rick Bonnell, yeah.
Rick
that
was
Bonnell,
the main.
Absolutely.
TJ Zwarych, the greatest DFS player in all of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. Do you know he wrote for Bleacher Report at like 12 years old? And he was a senior writer for them, give or take. Are you aware of this? Excellent. Imagine reporting to 12-year-old DJ.
Excellent.
Oh my gosh. If Garland and Mitchell are both out, how much Cleveland players is too much in one lineup? Ugh. Like, you're going to play LeVert. I want to see how that looks as far as I'm going to pull up our if-then, but I don't think we have it for Cleveland unless I missed it. Do you have a thought on that? The maximum number of Cleveland players?
I think my max would be 3 because Ricky Rubio is going to be in play if those guys are out. Trust me. He's 4K.
How many minutes would we push him to?
I'd say 25-ish. I don't think he plays. What's that?
What's the most he's played this year? About 20, 25?
Yeah, I would say if they're out, I think he plays 25 minutes max, Dean. That would be my thoughts. Because he's played about 20 with them in.
Yeah, I could see 25. Yeah, 20, 21 his last 2 games, for what it's worth.
I mean, if he happens to get to 30, like he's going to be one of the best plays on the slate against Detroit at 4K.
All right. Let's see. Charlotte Hornets. You want to? Did you give her thoughts as far as Washington again? Stay tuned.
Yeah.
If everybody's in, I don't love anybody.
Yeah, Charlotte's just okay, but I don't really want to play anyone. Like I think they're all priced appropriately. Gordon Hayward, it feels cheap, but he's not doing much. So
it's over.
Yeah, he's not doing much. This feels like Nick Batum all over again. Good on the front part of the contract, bad on the back end of the contract. It's just the same thing. Why do we keep doing this? Overpaying for mid-range NBA players. Just stop it. Just stop.
The injury. If I'm going to give him an excuse, the injury was brutal that he had.
No. Signed him absolutely
before that injury,
but we still overpaid for him. Still overpaid.
Yeah. That's because you're in Charlotte, and that's what you have to do when you're in Charlotte. You got to overpay for guys.
No, we don't have to. You don't pay. You don't overpay, and you continue to save money, right? And draft better.
That's been horrendous. Yeah.
Yeah, just do that. If you draft better, then you'll have more money to pay for better players to come. And this is not an insult to Gordon Hayward. It's just what we've done the past few years. Batum, Hayward, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, just extending the wrong guys. Come on, guys. Anyway, with Charlotte, I don't really want to play anyone, actually. I just think everyone's priced appropriately, and I think I'll be okay just taking a fade.
All right. Just taking a peek at ownership. Like Plumlee currently is getting 15% ownership. It's a good matchup here against Washington. Possibly a showcase game. I don't know what GM needs to see what Plumlee's doing these days. I really think Ball is super, super interesting for tournaments. I like the matchup for him. He's playing a ton of minutes. I don't know if I have the salary for it. Again, I might have the salary for it once things open up as this slate, moves forward. We're still an hour and a half out. It looks like Twitter might be coming back. I'm going to take a peek and see if anything new has changed. But we shall move on, I suppose. Is there anything else of note that we should mention, or just kind of power on through?
Negative.
All right. The 76ers at Boston. I believe this is the first half of the TNT doubleheader. Really, really fun game to watch. 224.5. It's a total. Boston 4-point favorite here. Again, Embiid officially questionable. I will be shocked if he did not play this game. Boston, we got Brown coming back from his illness. Both Horford and Time Lord Robert Williams have knees. Well, Williams has knees, but it's his ankle that's questionable. Both those guys we'll see. As far as the two bigs for Boston, currently questionable. Smart, obviously, still out for Boston. This is the classic. I think it's the classic, more fun to watch than to play DFS guys. Not that you don't like Tatum, not that you don't like Embiid, but salary is a thing. We don't really have a ton of value just yet, and nobody's getting more than 8% ownership currently on DK. Your thoughts as far as Boston and Philadelphia?
I like this game a ton, Dean, just because I feel like it's going to be competitive. And I think I've talked about this before. I do like the up pace good team versus a bad team, but the blowout factor I feel like is there. That's what I do really like. I like Joel Embiid a ton here in this spot, just because I don't think anybody on Boston is going to shut him down. I know Robert Williams is there, and they've got old man Al Horford, but listen, Joel Embiid has been, just having a monstrous season, and so I like him a ton. I really wish, Dean, and it feels like it until you look at the numbers. I really wish I could get in on Tobias Harris. I still think I take a shot at 5,600 on DraftKings. I still do think that's a little bit cheap. So I think you can get him because if he gets 35 fantasy points, which he's capable of, that's going to be a really good score for the price. So he's someone that's right there for me. And I think those are the two guys. I wish, Tyrese 5,500. I don't hate it, right? But I really prefer him to be playing 30 minutes every game. I mean, he's close, but I still think you can play Maxey just for upside, and I think that's what you're doing. But those are the handful of guys. Nothing against James Harden, but I don't really want to play him at 9,800 tonight on DK. And then the other side with Boston, love Tatum. Jaylen Brown's just okay for me. And that's probably it. I mean, but I'm mainly Embiid and Tatum are the two, and I don't have to convince you of that. Those are the stars of the teams, obviously. And if this is going to be a competitive game, I think both of those guys get there.
Yeah, I mean it's wants versus needs, and I don't think we need those guys. I like them, Again, ownership is reflecting it. You mentioned Tobias, and he's a guy I basically never roster. Speaking of overpaid players, he's perfectly fine, but. The salary is all the way down to 5.6, like you said on DK, which he's the most getting the most ownership currently at 8% on DraftKings.
Yeah,
I'm willing to pay for anybody at the right price, and I think 5.6 is fine. I don't need it, but I think it's okay. And there's a little bit more ceiling to it. Obviously, he's not the first option, or the second option on that team, or the third option. Embiid, 38% usage, Harden, 25, Maxey, 25, Harris, 19. But, he's fine, right? And he should play, 33, 34, 35 minutes or something like that. Stay tuned as far as the Boston stuff. If we get news, if a Pelican can come in my room or something like that and tell me that the Boston, who's in and who's out, because Twitter has not helped me out, unfortunately. Maybe like ESPN.com, Bleacher Report. Maybe TJ knows somebody still, like a former coworker. He has somebody on the inside. I'm not really sure, but all right, let's move on. Philadelphia, Boston, fun game, but not a great DFS game as things stand right now. This is the crazy thing, man, because the slate is so lacking so much value. Pacers at the Heat, 223.5 is a total. Miami is a 7-point favorite. The Heat are thin, but not crazy thin. They're thin. They're without Oladipo, and they're without Lowry. They did trade away Dwayne Dedmon. I don't know did they ever get anything officially for him? I know he was traded away, and I know they signed somebody in the G League, or no, they signed a 10-day contract to what's the guy's name? I'm forgetting his name. Bouye? Yeah, Jamare. I might be saying his name incorrectly, but he's available tonight for what it's worth. They do have 10 dudes. They ran, I think, 8 last game. Vincent, we have 5 guys currently, 5, hitting the DK optimal last time I ran it, which is for Miami, which is outrageous. They're pretty cheap collectively. Matchup is good against Indiana. The rotation should be tight. Let's run that again. There's no way I'm playing 5 guys for Miami, for the record. I think I might play 3, depending on. What would you cap it at as far as Heat players?
I would say 3. Definitely 3. That would be my read on it for sure. Probably some combination of Vincent, Hero, Butler, Vincent, Hero, Bam, Hero, Vincent. You get what I'm saying? Something to that effect, I think, if you're going to do it. Just because this is a matchup with the Indiana Pacers. They should be able to get up and down and have their way in this game. So these are some of my favorite targets on the slate. And obviously that's being reflected in ownership there, especially with Gabe Vincent at 49%.
Yeah.
You know, in a general sense, I'd say, man, let's just fade Gabe Vincent at that high ownership. But it's the Pacers. And so I really don't think I want to do that. But I really would probably bump up my max stress exposure just a touch.
Indiana, 4th fastest team in the league. Defensively, they're bottom 10 as well. So that's a nice combination for sure. Right now, currently, Will, this is insane. Gabe Vincent's getting 49% ownership on DK. 4.3 is the asking price. Our projection for him is not amazing. It's good. 25, 26 points, 32 minutes drawing the start there. So, yeah, 5 guys are hitting that optimal. And it speaks in large to the entire slate as well. There's the lack of a value out there. I'll throw it out there. I'll throw out the lineup because this is going to change, and don't play this. Gabe Vincent, Tyler Hero's got a pretty nice price. Hayward Highsmith's not great, but he's basically the floor and projected for 20 fantasy points. Jimmy Buckets, Butler. This is DK for what it's worth, not specific to FanDuel.
Yeah.
Jared Allen, pretty solid price at 6'9". Jared Jordan Poole, Kuminga, who's like a fine play, but not amazing. He's perfectly fine. 3.8, 21-point projection. That's not jumping off the page, but in the pool, yeah. And then Bam Adebayo, probably my favorite player in Miami. But the tricky part with him, of course, he's kind of expensive. He's got that center position. You only get 1 on FanDuel. I think actually, am I wrong to say he might be power forward on FanDuel? Yes, he is power forward on FanDuel. Yeah, that does make him more playable over there. You get a little versatility as far as your rosters. 29% on FanDuel. Gabe Vincent, 59% on FanDuel, which is just silly. Yeah. So Miami is the most popular team on this slate as of right now, which to me, I think it makes sense right now. And again, things are going to change. I think they're going to change. But yeah, 5 is certainly uncomfortable. We said 3. Is that what we're settling on? 3 for Miami, probably?
Yeah, 3 is my read on it. I will say this, maybe 4 if you're going to play Vincent and Struss, or Vincent and Highsmith, or Struss and High. You get what I'm saying, D? Like, if you're going to play 2 really cheap guys, then maybe 4 you can have some combination of Hero Butler, Hero Bam, or Butler Bam. But 4 would be my max, with the caveat that you're playing 2 really cheap guys.
Yeah. The Highsmith thing is a little fragile. I like Strus. Strus can certainly get going, hitting his threes. It could be rough if he's not doing that, but he's probably going to fire 10 up or so. So I'm perfectly fine with Max. I think we're projecting an 8-man rotation. I want to see what we're projecting. Are we having these new guys jump in? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so we are projecting an 8-man rotation, 36 minutes for Hero, 36 for Bam, 34 Jimmy, 32 for Caleb, and 32 for Gabe. Off the bench, Highsmith at 29, Strus at 25, and then Orlando Robinson, looks like straight backing up. Yeah, backup 5 for Bam. He's getting 12 minutes, Bam getting 36. Man, If that's what it is, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they run, Miami, barring goofiness, barring blowout, whatever, foul trouble, that kind of stuff. I think they're going to run the 8 as well. They did add a couple guys just in case they need them. But how about the Pacers on the other side? Trade rumors are still a thing. Buddy Hield, Miles Turner, they've been out there forever. Just throwing that in the conversation. Somebody might get traded. If not today, tomorrow. But the Pacers, nobody's really look, I love Halliburton. But am I going to play him tonight? Probably not. You like any Pacers?
No, if I was going to play, it would be Halliburton just because Miami's slightly limited with bodies, and perhaps that allows the Pacers to keep up in this game. But other than that, I'm not thrilled about it. I'm not playing any Pacers.
Yeah, Craig in the chat wants to know our favorite run back for the Pacers. Halliburton's my favorite, but I don't think I have the salary for it. Is my issue. Do you have to run it back? Yeah, people sort of feel like, and I kind of get that thought process. If you're playing 3 guys on Miami, theoretically, maybe you should run it back. You don't have to, I don't think. Just special circumstance. Miami's kind of thin. They're kind of cheap, the way the slate is. But yeah, if you're forced to run back somebody in Indiana, is it Halliburton or is it Turner? Or is it a Buddy Hield? You can get 3s off versus Miami. That's something you can do.
Yeah. I still don't want to play anyone. It would still be Halliburton for me.
Yeah. The official answer, I think, is you don't have to force it.
Yeah.
Kuzma is out. Beal and Morris are game time decisions. Okay. All right.
That helps some. That means Denny Abdi is going to definitely pick up minutes, so he's in play. And I still feel good about Porzingis as well.
Abdi has slowly worked his way up the pricing tiers and kind of paid it off almost every game.
Yeah,
for the most part.
It's a game with Charlotte. I don't hate it.
He's 6'2" on FanDuel, 5'7" on DK, better price on DK.
I'm in on DK until he hits 6,000.
Even if he doesn't start.
As long as he's playing the minutes. I'm sorry, go ahead. What were you saying, Dean?
If he doesn't start, because it's possible they start Kispert, but Avdia still gets more run, and of course, he's a better fantasy point player than Kispert.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Another situation where it's pretty murky. San Antonio versus Toronto. 232 is the total. Toronto is an 11-point favorite. There are plenty of trade rumors out there on OG Anunoby. Well, he's not playing tonight anyway. There's trade rumors out there on FVV, Freddie VanVleet. This feels like, you don't need a showcase game, but this feels like an awesome, awesome, awesome game for Freddie against the Spurs. The Spurs are really thin. They're without, Dwayne Dedmon, they traded for, not available. I don't know why. Maybe they traded for Dedmon just because they're going to trade Pirtle. I don't know. Dedmon's not a part of their future, but, another big, I suppose. Why do they want Dwayne Dedmon? Yeah. They might just cut him outright. Who knows? Trey Jones is out. Sohan's out. Langford is out. Devin Vassell, of course, still out for San Antonio. And big body Keldon Johnson is out. I'm counting 10 bodies if Johnson is in. Prices have caught up a little bit on these guys. Josh Richardson has slowly worked his way up as far as getting more minutes, getting more fantasy points. He's now 5'6" on DK. The rookie Malachi Branham is 5K. As far as the Spurs, Keldon in, Keldon out, that matters for sure. I believe we have a what if for this one. We do. If he's out, Josh Richardson is really popping and a little uncomfortable, but he might get traded, by the way. He's another guy. Why do they need Josh Richardson in San Antonio? He's a vet that can help somebody else out. But your thoughts as far as the Spurs, best they can do.
Dean, I don't want to play anybody from the Spurs. Even with the pricing, I make more money avoiding the Spurs, and if I stick to that long term, I'm going to be fine until they figure this whole mess they have going on out. So I'm avoiding the Spurs, Dean. I know Malachi Branham had an okay game, but his price has come up. Richardson's price is up. Now, let me say this: if Keldon is out, I understand that a guy like Doug McDermott or Zach Collins or something, where they're cheap, it may be beneficial. But generally speaking, I don't want to play any Spurs.
I got a spoiler for you, by the way. The Spurs are not figuring it out anytime soon. This team is going to get murkier as the season progresses.
Oh, I know.
They're losing pieces. It's going to be ugly. Yeah. Richardson, if Kelvin doesn't play, it looks like a pretty strong play, which, I'm trying to remember the last time we had a player like get traded mid-game. We've seen that before. I think J.R. Smith had happened to like 8 years ago or something. Harry Barnes, I want to say that happened with him, or he was like maybe announced to start and he didn't play, or he got pulled the last second. Like most of the times, these things don't happen. So like I try to be prepared for them, but I don't want to be overly paranoid on the prospect of, the Luchin chat saying, Barnes with the Mavs. That's what it was. My memory did not fail me on that one. Harry Barnes, was he announced in, or was he pulled out mid-game? I can't remember the scenario, but I know because he was really popular that night for some reason too, I believe, which is strange because when is Harry Barnes really popular? Got traded mid-game. There you go. D Jones talking about it in chat as well. How about the Raptors? Awesome spot for Toronto. Tight rotations for Toronto, assuming this game stays close. We got Pascal for 38 minutes, FVV for 38 minutes. Yeah, scratched on the bench. That's what was going on. Oh, man. DFS, got to love it. Gary Trent, all these guys look good to me. Scotty Barnes, and I saw somebody in chat talking about it. Let's see. Where was it at? Somebody was talking about a potential Boucher game. This does feel like a Boucher game. He can get loose if this game gets ugly. I don't know if he would fully mop up, but he would be like one of the last guys off the court. And as it stands right now, the slate lacks, some cheap guys. I'm happy to take a couple shots on Boucher, and he can get there just in his 20 to 22 minutes. Some positive coach speak on him as well. Your thoughts as far as Toronto? I really think, they look good, assuming San Antonio can keep this remotely close.
Yeah, man. I like them. I don't love them. Like, for instance, I but I did a video today where I took Gary Trent under points, and he was at 22.5. But I think the Raptors blow out the Spurs. I do. So I'm not thrilled about it with the prices. So I am with you on a guy like Chris Boucher or Thaddeus Young or something like that. But I don't want to play Fred VanVleet at 9,100 against the Spurs. That feels very expensive to me. Pascal Siakam, his upside hasn't been there with everyone else playing better. It's kind of like at the beginning of the season, Siakam and Mitchell were going postal, just doing incredible things. Well, now everybody else on their team is playing better. Siakam at 9,400 against the Spurs, I'm not as interested. Do you get what I'm saying? Like VanVleet scoring 20 and Gary Trent scoring close to 20, and Scotty Barnes is kind of, this Swiss Army knife do-it-all, and he's going to score 15 to 18. Pascal's going to score 20 to 25-ish with upside for 28. Precious is going to score 12 to 15. Chris Boucher is going to score 8 to 12. Like, it's just so many hands in the pot, and I think they blow the Spurs out tonight. So because of pricing, I'd prefer to get in on a Boucher or a Thaddeus Young rather than play some of these main pieces like Siakam and VanVleet.
You think they would? How much that run would Thad actually get, though? He's an old dude. Would he fully mop up? Maybe. Like, I don't know how much run he would actually get. I did see he entered the rotation last game. I believe he was in the rotation last game, but there's a threat. Like, he doesn't play at all sometimes. Boucher,
but I'm saying he's cheap. He's 3,300. I see Max Coverage TV saying I'm being picky. I am being picky, and you're absolutely right, man. You got it spot on. My player pool is pretty tight tonight. I got exposure to the Miami guys for sure. I'm not playing any Spurs for what it's worth unless we get some news that Keldon is out, and then maybe I consider like a Doug McDermott or KBD or something like that. I don't really want to play the Raptors outside of the cheap pieces. We are going to get to a game where I am going to play some guys, and that's coming up. But all in all, yeah, my player pool is pretty tight.
I mean, I think that's better than saying like I like everybody. I like the 3 players that score in this team and the 3 players that score in this team. Next, I think it's better as far as an analysis perspective. By the way, Jerome in chat's talking about Boogie Cousins. He got traded in the middle of the All-Star game from Sacramento to New Orleans. He found out in the middle of the game. Yeah, man, I love that. That Sacramento team was fun with Cousins and Thomas. And then Cousins and Davis was fun too. I just like Cousins. He was fun to watch. All right. Anything else here as far as Toronto, San Antonio?
Nope.
Sacramento, Houston, 239.5 is a total. Speaking of the Kings, they're running this one back. They played this game recently, doubling down. Kings are 9-point favorites. I believe they actually mollywopped in this game, if I remember correctly. They handled Houston really well. Yeah, coach was pissed for Houston after the game. He was fired up. He was not happy with the way his team played. You want to work that narrative. As far as who's in and who's out for the Sacramento-Houston game, Garrison Matthews is a toe, so he's questionable. The big one, of course, it's been like this for a while. No KPJ, no Kevin Porter Jr. He's out with his foot. Sacramento did trade for Kessler Edwards. I'm not sure if he is available or not. I'm not sure if that matters or not. But he is there. Well, he may be available. He may not be. But, I don't think he's a key part of the rotation anytime soon. Yeah, Sacramento fully healthy. Good matchup, obviously, against Houston. Sabonis, Şengün, I would say the sexiest of the pieces. You tell me otherwise as far as the Kings and the Rockets. A game we should like. I remember I talked about this with Keith last week. Oh, was it earlier in the week? And it's like, yeah, it was weird. It was not very popular for like salary reasons, and it was a dud.
Excuse me.
I feel like this game should play better than the last one. Can't be any worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely think you get in on Jalen Green at 6,800. And I still like De'Aaron Fox at 9K. I know we didn't see the upside completely the last game, but he had just got back, Dean, and they blew this team out. I mean, Sacramento just blew the doors off of Houston. Houston's at home, if this game is reasonably close, then I like De'Aaron Fox to go for a 50 spot here tonight. So this game, as much I've been kind of passing on guys, love this game. On DK, you got Herter at 5,400. You've got Keegan Murray at 5,500. You've got Harrison Barnes at 5,600. And look, all of these guys aren't going to get there. Just don't play them all together. My favorite of the bunch is definitely Fox. And if let's say I was multi-entering via a hand build, sometimes it's still good to hand build teams to try to maybe get it exactly how you want, as an example. But you don't have to do it. You can just set up groups and say, hey, I want 2 or 3, and it'll do it for you. But I would kind of, if I was hand building, I would do something like Fox Herter, Fox Barnes, Fox Murray, Fox Monk. You get what I'm saying? And kind of get that flywheel going, and definitely run it back with some Jalen Green. I'm not saying you have to run it back, but I do like this game to be pretty fast-paced, as we've seen. It's just whether or not they're going to stay competitive. Sabonis at 10-3 is okay. I'm not thrilled about it. I'd much rather just go up and play Tatum or Embiid for $1,000 more for what it's worth. But, if you play them because you like the game environment, I'm not going to say, oh, don't play Sabonis tonight. But that's kind of my approach with this game. I really like this one a lot. I think you can play KJ Martin. He's 5,500, probably a little bit more expensive than you absolutely want to pay. But I think he's going to have the minutes. If the game's close, he's going to play 30-plus minutes. So I'm in on him as well. So that's kind of where I'm at with this game. Kind of some mini game stacks in it, 2-1, 2-2, stuff like that, and go from there.
Your podcast partner in the chat, the Luch, talking about De'Aaron Fox having a baby this weekend. Is that narrative worthy? I believe
he's already played.
Yeah, this is his second game
against the same team. Might I add, he just played this team the other night,
and he was good against them. It's just
it would have been noteworthy, Dean, except for the fact they beat this team by almost 30 points.
Yeah,
they just blew them out.
Would you say the Kings mollywopped the Rockets?
They mollywopped them, Dean.
What?
The whopped happened with the molly.
Somebody in chat pointed out that's the second time I've used that word this week. I in a separate conversation to a friend of mine, unbeknownst to nothing, I want to bring mollywop back. I feel like we don't use that enough in the vernacular. It's a fun word. That's gonna be mine. That's my new own personal fetch. I'm gonna try to make mollywop. Yeah, I'm gonna make mollywop
by Dean Shableton.
I mean, I didn't invent it, but I heard
know, Dean, I've heard the word mollywop before. Go on.
I know. I'm not taking. I'm not taking credit for it. Is what I'm saying. But I'm trying to bring it back. I think it doesn't. It needs a little more respect on mollywopped. It's not a medical term, as far as I know. Stephen in chat's asking. I don't believe so. Yeah, even Urban Dictionary's got a definition for it, but I see the official definition: to strike, slap, or slam into one, either once or repeatedly, to wallop one, essentially. There you go. These are the little things you learn as well as basketball on this show. That's why we have plenty of time to knock it all out. If you guys aren't aware, we started it yesterday. Crunch time comes in earlier. They're going to be coming in around 6:15, 6:20. You get free crunch time, and it's supersized. Remember back in the day? Nobody remembers this. Many, many years ago, like when Friends was on TV and like NBC had like their comedy shows, they would have like supersized episodes, like 40-minute long episodes. Now crunch time is supersized. There you go. Supersized sitcoms, 40 minutes long.
Do you remember when your combos at the fast food restaurants were supersized, Dean?
Well, I mean, the beverage is supersized. What's
but now they just say small, medium, or large. Back in the day,
supersized is no longer a thing.
Right? Correct.
Okay.
Supersized is non-existent now. Small, medium, or large.
Did not know that.
Yeah. Now you can go to Bojangles, which is a local chain down here in the southern region, and you can get a bow size.
Everybody's got their own little spin on what like supersize is, basically. So
yeah, but the word supersize does not come up anymore.
Interesting. You know what? I bet that's because the documentary Supersize Me that Morgan Spurlock did. He ate McDonald's for 30 straight days.
Yeah, I remember that.
Days, and he almost died. Yeah. I feel like there was some negative publicity on the term. Turns out eating McDonald's for 30 straight days, bad for your health. Who would have known? All right. Let's move on as far as Sacramento and Houston. Yes? I think so.
Let's do it.
We are on fabulous pace for the record, by the way. 3 more games. Again, we're yielding in about 15 minutes or so. We'll have time for questions in chat. Whatever's in your mind in chat, by all means, fire it off. Wendy's has a great biggie. I didn't know that. I can't tell you the last time I was at a fast food joint. It's like, great biggie size. I've heard that before. I think that's a thing.
Yeah.
And producer Steve is standing for McDonald's being so good. All right. The bug gulp? I know what a big gulp is. What's a bug gulp? Is that just a typo? That was a typo. Yeah, the big gulp is still alive, as far as I know. Hey, the Utah Jazz are home tonight to the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves, wait for it, they got legit mollywopped last night. Absolutely destroyed, punched right in the face by Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. We had Gobert questionable. He ended up playing last night. It was weird, though, because they started Naz Reid alongside him, which we don't see very often. Turns out that did not work out. Gobert questionable in the back half of back-to-back, as is Austin Rivers. No, he's officially out. He's still suspended. Jordan McLaughlin's questionable. Obviously, Cat is out. Kyle Anderson has that back, so he's questionable. The only one questionable for Utah on the trading block is Jordan Vanderbilt, who has that back. Yeah, so he is questionable. Minnesota and Utah.
No, but Mike Conley's in this weird 3-team trade, Dean, between the Lakers, Timberwolves, and the Jazz.
Is Russell in that conversation too?
Yeah. So the idea is, I think I can't remember if it was Woj or who. I can't remember, but it's D'Angelo Russell, Mike Conley, and Russell Westbrook in a 3-team trade, sending Russ to Utah. D'Angelo Russell's would go to the Lakers, reunited, and it feels so good. And then Mike Conley would end up in Minnesota. And there's some other particulars around it, but yeah, that's kind of the weird part of the trade. So like this game has some real unknowns, because this is a serious trade, I think, that's happening behind the scene. Like, this is a real one, Dean. This isn't one of those phantom, let's figure it out. This one may be happening. So this game, I think some guys are going to sit. I really do.
Westbrook and Ham got into a fight last night as well, for what it's worth, the coach for LA. It's the strangest thing with Davis. Again, not to bring up the LeBron thing again, but when LeBron broke the record, there's this video of Anthony Davis, like, just not caring in any – he's just, like, moping on the bench. It's very odd. Like, everybody's going nuts and celebrating. Like, yeah, it's so cool. And Davis, like, did complete indifference. Like, you see him from afar, so maybe that's not fair. But, like, his body language, like, just gives him, the impression that he does not care at all. LeBron told him he loved him, too, on the bench. Like, he was mic'd up, and LeBron says he loves the guy. And then Davis does not care that you're breaking any records. Yeah. Yeah, TJ in chat, he'll be on later, so maybe he's got some more clarity on this. And of course, it leads to a good argument for just backloading stuff, right? If you have any tiebreakers, just play the later guy and figure stuff out as news trickles in. He's talking about Noel potentially getting opened up if Russell and Conley don't play. Like, of course, then Sexton will become a really strong play. Wait, I'm combining teams, aren't I? Yeah, so Noel might be a lock button he's talking about. Yeah, if Russell doesn't go. So like different pieces in this game. But as of right now, what is the analysis we can give? Well, I don't know. It's 9 o'clock and it's 3.5 hours later, or what? Well, no, 3 hours later. Bad math there. Olynyk is another guy that you wouldn't be shocked. And like Ainge, of course, the GM for Utah, has a history of he's not afraid to trade dudes, trade for pieces, trade for assets. Vanderbilt and Beasley potentially involved, but Vanderbilt's the one that's been rumored a good bit. Kessler is obviously impressed, so they don't need Vanderbilt as much. You can make that argument, I suppose. I don't know what to say, though, as of right now, because this is going to change. What can you tell the people at 6 o'clock on the East Coast? Best advice, Minnesota, Utah. Maybe leave some space. Maybe don't lock everything up.
I think that's the way you play it. And leave space for at least some of the good guys, too, not just the cheap pieces. Because Lauri Markkanen may end up being a really good play if D'Angelo and Mike Conley are out. Jordan Clarkson would end up being a really good play. You get what I'm saying, Dean? Colin Sexton at 3,800 could turn into a really good play. So it's, and then same thing in Minnesota where, Noel, Jaden McDaniel, all these guys end up being good plays with D'Angelo Russell is out. Or if Kyle Anderson sits and D'Angelo Russell's out because of the trade, like you're just going to get access to certain guys. So definitely leave some space. Like we already so for me, Dean, I already don't like a lot of these games up front. Outside of, I do love Embiid and I do love Jason Tatum tonight. So maybe what I do, Dean, instead of playing one, I split it. So if I'm in lineup HQ, I take Joel Embiid, I take Jason Tatum, and maybe I split them and I say I just want one of these guys, one or the other, so I can get exposure to guys on the back end. And Justin Kelly says Chief doesn't play DFS anymore. I do play DFS still, but my volume is different because of props. So love DFS, still involved. My volume has changed because of props. And if you want to see that volume, you just come hang out in the prop shop, and you'll see what's happening.
How would I hang out in the prop shop, Chief?
If you go to the RotoGrinders Discord, you've got an RG account. Perhaps you didn't know it was there. Perhaps you've just been hanging out in the NBA channel. Just scroll up. It'll say Chiefs Prop Shop. Come in, have a good time, and we can roll from there.
Now, is just anybody willing to just anybody can just knock on the door and get welcome, or you have to be a premium member at RotoGrinders? Can anybody join the prop shop?
Anyone can join the prop shop. It is free. You just need a RotoGrinders account. Now, what I will say is I think a lot of people have joined the prop shop, perhaps under a free account, and then they've realized all of the beautiful things, all of the beautiful content, premium tools that RotoGrinders has to offer. Lineup HQ, tons of things. And Dean, one of my personal favorites, Dean, which, and this is something I've been on like for years and years, Roto Academy, Dean. I can't tell people enough how Roto Academy literally changed the course of my career. And so I would encourage everyone, please go to Roto Academy. There's videos, there's articles from a lot of great minds that work for the company and still or don't work for the company, but the content's there, can give you some perspective. And yeah, some of it may be older than what you anticipate, but the concepts are still great. And as we've been going, Dean, Mitchell and Darius Garland are out.
Yeah, Levert.
Can we hop back to the Cleveland game since that's going to be very important for DFS, because now we do want some pieces from these earlier games.
I cannot see a scenario where I'm not playing Levert in every lineup I make. Like, that's it.
Bam,
Levert,
there it is.
button,
I'm with you. I'm with you. But Dean, I do like Rubio. I want to go back to that. Rubio at 4K, we've seen him get off in 20 minutes, Dean, against the bench, which is basically what he's going to see tonight against Detroit. I think Rubio is very valuable for tonight's slate because we know he's going to play, and we know he's probably going to play 25 minutes. I think he's got 35-point upside or a little more, depending on if they extend him into the 30-minute range, because he's going to get the assist, he's going to score a little, he's going to do it all. I really like Rubio. I'm with you on your Levert lock button. Ricky Rubio
Neto
is
is starting
for
apparently
me with Cleveland. What's that, Dean?
Howell Neto, I believe, is going to draw the start. Yeah, so Levert and Howell Neto. Neto is more of a distributor. I don't think, I mean, that's probably just to keep Rubio's minutes down. Here's my question, right? It's a 7:00 game, and I was going to talk about this as far as Miami, and it all sort of relates to the later games. Like Miami, Optimals are having 5 Heat players. That's outrageous. Like, you can't do that.
But they're not going to have 5 Heat players now, though, D, because of this news. It's going to shift.
Correct. And that kind of leads to the point I'm trying to make, and I'm curious the conundrum, because Rubio is going to probably, I'm guessing, I'm curious what we give him, maybe 24 minutes or so, and he's going to be a pretty good math play. But, right, Rubio is 4K. But as far as lineup HQ goes, we can't project anything like any goofiness to happen in Minnesota and Utah, but certainly goofiness can happen in Minnesota and Utah. Now, do you want Rubio and his 27 points, or do you want what's behind door number 2? And door number 2 might have, Jalen Noel season potentially opened up at 3.6K. It might have Colin Sexton season open up at 3.8K. It might not, but it might, right? So it's risk versus reward. And you're going to be kicking yourself with Rubio's 25 fantasy points if all of a sudden Sexton's the greatest player on the slate, dollar for dollar, and you have nowhere to put him. So
here's the thing.
It's an interesting lineup, a construction slate for sure.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I think that's exceptional point. Here's what I would say. With Nato starting, I gotta think Rubio's ownership stays down. Like if Rubio was in the starting lineup, I think he creeps up to around 30-ish to 35%. I don't think he's going to see anything near that now, and I do want to wait for our update because I'm sure we're going to get one. I have to assume Rubio is probably going to be somewhere around maybe, 10% now, Dean? Maybe even less. I don't know. Because Nato at 3K may be valuable for some people. And
Neto might get played. Like, Neto's got to be still in minimum, right? Like, he's not a great
he's 3K. So that's what I'm saying. He's probably going to get ownership now, where I still like Rubio. Now, I'm not saying I don't like Neto, but my point is I still think we can get Rubio shares and be just fine. So I like Rubio a ton. He's still going to be in the pool.
Yeah, and also the matchup, against Charlotte, certainly is a bump as well too.
And so Matt, I think Matt may have kind of missed the discussion because he was asking why you were talking about Sexton. But there's some things going on in the.
Here, I'll read it. I got it. So TJ dropped.
Sure, there you go. Yeah, go right ahead.
Lakers, Jazz, T-Wolves are discussing a 3-team deal that would send D'Angelo Russell to the Lakers, Westbrook, and draft nonsense to Utah. Mike Conley to Minnesota. He would just change locker rooms, apparently. Ongoing discussions have included Utah's Malik Beasley. Vanderbilt is part of a potential 3-team deal. Lakers, Minnesota, and Utah, and they're in the same building right now, Minnesota and Utah. Obviously, they wouldn't play. They wouldn't just change uniforms. There's medicals and stuff and things to sign. But, there is a scenario, and it doesn't mean it's going to happen. But these scenarios sometimes happen, sometimes they don't. But you want to be prepared for them. I think it's serious
enough to where these guys may sit tonight, and that's what would place Sexton in play. So hopefully that clears it up for you, Matt, while we were talking about Sexton, because if you play, it's basically, do you want to, and Dean, I think, said it perfectly, door number 1, door number 2. You got Rubio and Nato, and then at the back end of this thing, you may have Noel and Sexton, and it's pick your poison. Which door do you want to choose? Both may be okay, but one could be significantly better than the other depending on the circumstance. So that's kind of where we were headed. That's where we were headed with that discussion in terms of why Sexton may be vaulted into a really good spot tonight.
Yeah, and nothing can happen. And sometimes on Let's Make a Deal, you get like a donkey or something. And I don't know if you take donkey.
Let's Make a Deal. Dean watches TV, folks. That's called a zonk, by the
way. Shout out Wayne Brady.
Yes.
Howell Neto on the season. Good Lord, man. 12.3% usage. That's so bad, but he's a good distributor. I think he's a decent steal guy. 0.7 fantasy points a minute. That's not horrendous in 354 minutes, and I think it would benefit. And also the bigs are going to get a bump too. I saw people are talking about Allen and I'm forgetting the other big for Cleveland, Mobley. Both certainly interesting. I bet Allen's going to get a bump, and I bet Allen's looking really good right now. And again, I don't want to ideally lock up too many spots early, but Jared Allen looks very, very good on DK.
Cleveland guys are definitely in play. But Dean, here's what I will also say, and I did mention this earlier. With Garland and Mitchell out, I am now interested, especially on DK, in a Jaden Ivey at 5,500. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm more, because I feel like that helps the game stay closer. Alec Burks, I'm interested. Jalen Duren, I'm interested. I'm not saying I'm going to commit to massive ownership on them, but we've got them projected for really small, really low ownership. So I do like a couple of Detroit pieces now that the absence of Garland and Mitchell, we hope, should keep the game slightly closer, which would help yield some fantasy points from the Detroit Pistons from a few of these guys.
If for some reason Burks doesn't start, I would fully get off him. He's in the conversation of getting traded and whatever. Not that I love Burks as is, but I understand the point you're making. Yeah. 2 more games. Dallas Clippers, 220 is the total. We're looking at an 8-point favorite as far as the Clippers. Of course, Dallas is still without Luka Doncic. Kyrie expected to be available. Ntilikina is questionable. Markieff Morris also expected to be available. Davis Bertans, Maxi Kleber unavailable. We're projecting it to be Josh Green, THJ, Bullock, Powell, and Kyrie. Kyrie stepping into a ton of usage. We're still having a Christian Wood come off the bench. Again, he's another guy that seems very likely. I mean, look, as if there was a draft on guys that are going to trade it, he just doesn't make sense for this team. They really can use some defense. He's much more offensive oriented, and he's not going to get a ton with Luka and Kyrie fully playing. Your thoughts as far as the debut for Kyrie and the Clippers? We should mention the Clippers. They are fully healthy, the Clippers, and just John Wall unavailable.
I think it's interesting. Kyrie at 10-6 feels expensive to me on a new team, for what it's worth, D. I'm willing to take the risk and just completely X Kyrie out of my player pool tonight, for what it's worth. Like, this isn't Brooklyn, new team. Look, Kyrie's amazing, okay? Super talented. I think fine. I'm willing to take the risk and completely get rid of him tonight because I don't know what this team is going to look like in terms of how he's playing. So that's my read on the situation with Kyrie. That's where I am. And then
2 really slow teams.
So I'm not really thrilled about playing anyone from Dallas, but that's just my personal read on how I want to approach the slate. In terms of the Clippers, we've been talking about Kawhi Leonard a great deal, and don't look now, but Kawhi Leonard is continuing to play well pretty much every game, Dean. Yeah. So I like Kawhi in tournaments at 9,700 on DK. I think that's a great price for him. We've got Paul George at 9,200. That's just okay. We've seen a lot more upside from Kawhi than Paul George. I'd be willing to side with Kawhi, but I wouldn't want to play those two together. So what I would do, once again, we HQ, make a group. We've got Kawhi, we've got Paul George. Set your ownership percentage ranges that you want. Maybe you take Kawhi at 20%. You take Paul George at 12%. Put them in a group. And just say, hey, I only want one of these guys in any build. You don't want them together, or you don't want to play them both. And I think that's how you approach it with the Clippers. Everybody else, take it or leave it. But Kawhi and Paul George, I think you get some slight exposure.
Very little ownership on DK coming in this game. Norman Powell, 8% is the most. Kyrie at 2%. So I don't hate it as if you're building 150, you want to throw a dart, by all means. Better play on Fanduel as far as the price. The ownership does reflect it. Paul George, cheap over there as well. George is 8.4, getting about 10%, 9.8 for Kyrie, still only getting 3%. So, yeah, if you want to build your own narrative, like that first game of the team, yada, 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 but this doesn't seem like the best environment. Doesn't mean he can't still score 40 points in the bucket. Last game, Golden State, Portland. They're both 10 o'clock games for what it's worth. 234.5 is the total. Portland is a 2-3-point favorite here at home versus the Warriors. Of course, Steph unavailable for Portland. Nurkic, she's going to be out for a while. Drew Eubanks should be good to go as far as his back, so they're pretty healthy. Winslow still out. As big spends go, Lillard looks really, really appealing. Just the same old deal as if you have one big spend, you want it to be Lillard. I don't hate it. Poole probably still a little bit too cheap, getting a ton of ownership tonight. Let's hit the refresh as far as what we have on ownership in this game, because I know earlier in the day it was pretty big. Still is 40% for Jordan Poole on DK 7-1. This is kind of sort of somewhat his show. We saw it was Clay's show last time out, hitting 12 or 13 threes. Probably not repeatable again. Good for him. But I don't think I'm chasing that at 7-9. Like, definitely not playing Clay unless something really goofy happens with my earlier games and I have to pivot in the hopes of catching up. Golden State, Portland, good environment. What do you like here?
I mean, I think it's just a cool at 7,100. I do still think we've got some value. We do understand that he's got 40 to 50 point upside, so I'm in on Jordan Poole. Clay, I'm with you. Him being 8K feels a lot different than him being 7,100, doesn't it? My goodness, yep. I don't think I'm going to play Klay Thompson tonight. I do still have some slight interest in Andrew Wiggins at 6K. They played really well the other night. But Andrew Wiggins 6K, I think we can get some exposure there. But that's about it for me. DiVincenzo, I think, is priced appropriately. He'll have some games where he'll pop. But all in all, DiVincenzo, I think, is priced appropriately. We hop on the Portland side. It's probably just Dame, and it may not be Dame at all. Not that I don't love Dame, because we've seen Dame just go off for some massive scoring games, and he could definitely do that tonight. But once again, if I'm going to play someone at 10-7, I'm going to side with Embiid, Tatum. Those are the guys I really want to spend up for tonight. But I think before I played Dave at 10-7, I'd probably play De'Aaron Fox at 9K against Houston. But remember, I'm talking about what I would do. And that's my approach to the slate, because we'll have enough value to play whoever we want.
Yeah, Kuminga's getting some ownership, 15% on DK. Lillard, 12% at 10-7. On Fanduel, he is 10K, so he's getting almost 21% over there. Don't get the 3-point bonus, but a nice discount as far as the price. Saw somebody mentioned Draymond. I can't imagine paying, 7.5 on Fanduel for him? Like, I can't imagine doing that. But on DK, I guess you can play him at 6.5, but I don't love it. It's fine. Get yourself possibly a cheap double-double or something like that. Some questions in chat. Crunch time again coming in shortly. Let's see. Ayo was the pivot off Summer last night. Rubio the pivot off of Vincent, or is it Wright? Who would you say the pivot is off Vincent? I just hate the fact that the pivots are all early, at least in this example.
I mean, in terms of pivoting, I think you've got some options. I mean, one of the pivots is probably right in the same game with Max Struss. Another pivot I think is Rubio. DeLon Wright could be a pivot, but here's the thing though. Sometimes when we think about pivots, we think about maybe same price range, but a pivot could be, do you get what I'm saying? A reallocation or redistribution of salary to get 2v2. Two better players. So maybe as an example, perhaps you have Joel Embiid and the guy we're talking about, Gabriel.
Sabonis? Oh.
Yeah, you've got Joel Embiid and Gabriel. And maybe instead of doing that, you say, well, I'm going to come down a tick. I'll grab Kyrie, for example. I'll grab and then I'll take Josh Richardson or something like that. That's just Gabriel, an example. I'm not telling you to take those two players.
You said Gabriel. That's Gabe Vincent?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Yeah, I couldn't figure it out for some reason. But
yeah, Gabe Vincent.
Sabonis or Embiid?
So that's the other thing.
in a vacuum, a little bit different price, but who would you prefer to build around, Sabonis or Embiid tonight?
Embiid for me.
Yeah, all things considered equal. By the way, we kind of nailed it as far as the projection. We were talking about Rubio. You want Rubio's 27 points? We're giving him 27 points on DK at 4K, which is, good. That's fine. We're giving him 24 minutes. Hal Neto, we're giving him, our projection team just sort of updated this. And let's see, Neto, I just saw. Now I'm getting away from it. Where did it go? It's hiding on me now. Hold on a second. There he is. All right. Yeah. 3K. We're giving him 24 minutes and like 19 fantasy points. That is his projection, which is, and it could be more, it could be less, but usable. Yeah. And we're only giving him 24 minutes to start. We're just chopping it. 24 Rubio, 24 Neto. I think that's a pretty good call from a median projection, but yeah. 0.7 fantasy point minute player on the season, a little bit better matchup. So maybe he scores 20, 25 or something
like
that.
We know a little something, Dean. We know a little something.
Yeah, we're on the fly. We kind of nailed what those projections would be, basically. Allen, 43 fantasy points, by the way, is awesome. Jared Allen, 43 DK fantasy points at 7K. 6'9".
I hope they give us a little discount on Allen on Prize Picks. Speaking of which, shout out to my boy Watch Out, man. Did so well with soccer today. I mean, my night is just set up perfectly. I almost don't even have to invest in NBA. We've had a great day. And look, lo and behold, we got the Crunch Time crew coming in. We got a new setup here. You guys are getting the extended Crunch Time brought to you by some of the best minds in the biz. Kevin Roth, the weatherman, Andy Means, and none other than Agents of Fandom himself, TJ Zwarych, all the way up in Canada. Dean, I'm closing this thing out today. It's been real. Guys, take it away for the handoff.
Oh, I guess that's the handoff.
That was quick. I wasn't ready for that. Was very.
I'll see you guys on Tennessee time. I'm out.
All right. Sounds good. Appreciate it. Later, guys. Hey, welcome to it, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed Crunch Time. It is sponsored by Fanduel. That's the reason it's free. It's because of Fanduel. So go ahead. All we ask is not that you pay. It's that you hit a little thumbs up over on the YouTube here and that you pay close attention to two of the sharpest minds in the industry. It's one Mr. Andy Means. What up, Meansy?
It's been a little hectic, Roth. Been a little hectic.
A little crazy?
Twitter's breaking, so I don't know who's playing tonight. Yeah. Dog's got a little loosies outside, cleaning stuff up. So does anyone know who's playing tonight? Can someone help me out?
I did just get news that Bradley Beal is in and Monty Morris is out.
Okay. Now I know something about the slate.
That's very good. I noticed that you have a fresh new haircut going on.
I do. Thank you.
Are you trying to, it looks like a little young. You got like kind of a tight fade on the side. You trying to look young here, Means?
Yeah. So when you don't have a lot of it, you have to get creative in where you put the ones you have. So yeah. I'm going with the triple deke, pretending like I don't have a lot here. So no one looks at that I really don't have a lot there.
Yeah. That's a good move. I like that. Yeah. That's a pro move. Yeah. I just actually have like 4 pieces of hair that are just very elaborately circled around many, many times into an incredible.
I think I remember you talking about this. It was like on the. I don't know if you watched the freaking Showtime show with John C. Reilly on HBO, the Lakers show with Dr. Jerry Buss.
Oh no!
He literally says it's not what you have, it's what you do with it, and it shows him like combing over his hair. That's like every time you say that, now I think of that.
Yeah, that's the move. Hey, we have one who is not follically challenged. It's our guy TJ joining us as well.
Yeah, look at that hair. That's bullshit.
Means with this is that the stubby bottle we're drinking there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, it's just such a classy looking beverage. It makes me jealous. TJ, I am jealous of your smarts and your hair and your Funko Pop collection. What up, TJ?
Doing well. This is chaos. I had a fun story I was going to tell about a press conference I was at yesterday where Randall Park mispronounced and then properly pronounced my name. I got to ask a question to the Marvel Studios CEO, but this slate is too much chaos. We don't got time for that. We got to dive
right in. That's down the hall, TJ. That's down the hall.
Here's the good news is that we do have time, at least for content, because this show, as was mentioned, has been extended, expanded, whatever descriptions you want to use. It's longer. We still have nearly 40 minutes until lock. I would ask Meansy for a general slate outlook, But nobody knows what the hell's going on because Twitter's down. You want to try your best means?
No, yeah, we've been getting alerts. I was being somewhat hyperbolic when I said that.
Slightly
what I will
facetious.
do, yes, a little bit facetious. What I will do is I'm hitting refresh on our situation room, and I am going to go through and just look and just kind of mention recent ones because literally Twitter has been broken, and some people might not have alerts turned on, and people might rely on Twitter for this stuff. So, two big ones recently: Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland out. Looks like Keldon Johnson will be playing. We're still waiting on Embiid. He's questionable. So I'll get to this in a second. I'll talk about Minnesota and Utah in a second. Kuzma out. Anything new? TJ just said Beal is in, and you said Morris is out, right, TJ?
Correct.
Yep. And then we're still waiting on Time Lord and Al Horford, I believe. I have not seen anything update on them. They're both questionable, and they play Embiid tonight. So then, all right. So then this one's really tricky because Shams tweeted out something, and Shams is like obviously probably might be the most plugged in reporter now. So he's not going to say this if it doesn't hold weight.
Mm-hmm.
But he's saying that D'Angelo Russell might be involved in a 3-team trade. Russell Westbrook doesn't matter, not on the slate. And then Conley and like Jared Vanderbilt, and they're on like Russell and Minnesota and the Jazz are on this slate. So like, and this isn't something where like the injury report's going to say questionable, like may get traded. That's like they're not going to be on there. I mean, Vanderbilt's on there because of an injury, but like so this one's going to be really tricky. I want to double check because I think our guys were talking about moving those guys out. I want to double check that real quick.
Well, I think that's interesting because now not only are you potentially fading those guys, but you're thinking about who's stepping up in those spots.
Yeah.
But also, if it doesn't happen, you feel like an ass.
Exactly. It's impossible. It looks like we still have them in. So they were talking about possibly moving them out. What are you going to say?
I want to weigh in on that quick. I can't imagine Mike Conley and D'Angelo Russell play today. Like with that trade being announced, the only thing that it's being hinged on right now is Minnesota checking to see if they can get more value from other teams. So there's no way they would play D'Angelo Russell in there today when they're have a agreed upon deal from 2 teams to make it a 3-team deal and are in the process of dangling it in front of another team.
Allegedly have an agreed upon deal.
I don't know. Woj and Shams both said it. So when they double confirm, it's like, ooh. Yeah. Shams reported on this trade like 3 minutes after Woj was talking about it on TV today. So like, I'll throw it back to Means here, but as it stands right now, I'm getting like Karis LeVert, Colin Sexton, and Jalen Noel. I'm getting 80% of each of them.
Interesting. Okay. Means, do you want to kind of elaborate on, those guys and what your thought process is?
I agree with TJ. Like, it makes no sense for them to play those guys because, like, you obviously risk injury or anything. There's just not worth it, especially nowadays. They just like everyone's so cautious about everything. I will say for premium subscribers, we do have What If up, and it has Conley, Beasley, and Vanderbilt are out. Beasley was the other one they were talking about. I knew I was forgetting somebody. So we do have What If projections up. If those 3 guys are out, I'm checking to see if we have. Yeah, we have a D'Angelo Russell one out as well. So Noel, rocket ship because Austin Rivers is serving a suspension. McLaughlin's kind of been eased back in. They are lacking guards if D'Angelo doesn't play tonight. So Noel for sure, like TJ said. And then not as much value is going to come about from Utah. Probably some Clarkson and some Sexton. But it's going to depend on who they start also. So that's basically what I want to talk about with that. And that was the end of the injury situation anyway. So, yeah.
Very good. Okay, well, before you dive into FanDuel, I do have a couple quick notes. First up, make sure you sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook. If you're in a legal sports betting state, take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $3,000. Terms and conditions apply. I'm thinking means if I go to Nashville and sign up, do I get the $3,000? Does this?
Now, Roth, you have to. Here's what it is.
Yeah, do tell.
So you get up to that.
If I put in that,
you would have to bet. If you want to get that much, you have to bet $3,000, and you get that back if you lose. You get it back as a free bet if you lose. So you don't. It's not like you just get to cash it out. You would have to. Yes, I mean it's still an awesome deal. That's like that's like a ton of value.
Well, this
so
is
like I'm
great,
just saying,
though.
you just don't get to like put it into your account. You know what I'm saying?
Of course, no, of course. But
Okay.
I get to go there. I get to be surrounded by people who know what the hell they're doing, like you. I just bet
Completely
$3,000 throughout the course of the weekend. It's going to be freaking amazing.
Yeah, and I'll lower my commission fee a little bit since I like you.
Thanks.
And
I appreciate it.
who wants to fly me out to Nashville in exchange for my free bet? That's what I'm wondering.
If it hits,
that's not allowed. I don't think that's allowed. I was just kidding. Don't actually consider that. I'm pretty sure.
I will do that.
Hey, also FanDuel Single Series sponsored by RotoGrinders. That's back. So. Make sure you get your spot in the Wednesday NBA block contest. $5 to enter for your chance at $1,250. That's $1,250. And then right after this show, we've got the RG and Scores and Odds Super Bowl betting breakdown. Join us for a peek at the week's upcoming NFL matchup for the freaking Super Bowl as we run down some of our favorite bets. We're going to roll that literally right after crunch time. So
look at those guys.
Sure. Look at that. Look at them. I trust I trust most of those people.
Look at Lucha's hair, man. Come on.
It's incredible. The mohawk.
Putting TJ to shame.
I know. TJ. Oof, bud. Okay. Hey, now I'm done. I'm done with my spiel. Make sure you're signing up for FanDuel and giving us thumbs ups. Meansy, let's make some money.
All right. Let's see here. All right. So there's going to be a lot of Cleveland talk because they ruled out their I'm not going to say best players, but like two most fantasy relevant players, in Garland and Mitchell. One thing I want to note here, we want to see who starts. I'm pretty sure I caught the end of Dean and Chief talking about the Neto Rubio situation. Because obviously, if you get the guy who plays more than the other guy with those two, you're gonna want him. They're cheap. Rubio, especially, is really good per minute, but he's also the guy who's coming back from an ACL injury. Within the last 3 weeks, they have not extended his minutes. So I'm curious to see who starts here. I would probably side with Neto just because he's a little cheaper, but if they say they're starting Rubio, that's going to make me feel better about his minutes. So it's tough to tell. And we're going to get news on that while we're on the show.
They did say Neto would start.
Is that I missed that one? Okay, good. Then yeah, he's starting and he's a little cheaper. I'm going to prefer Neto there a little bit, but LeVert is shooting guard, small forward. I went ahead and tagged him on all sites just because he's going to be the usage hog here now with those two guys out. We've seen this story before, so it's definitely him. Let me just go back to point guard real quick and just talk through this position in general. It's probably slightly Neto. I don't know if we're going to update our minutes on those guys with the starting announcement. I don't know when that came in. I'll reassess that when TJ's talking. But again, I do prefer Neto just because I'm worried about how much they're going to extend Rubio. So he would be my preferred cheap option for cash games. Neto, that is. Then I like those guys better than Vincent, but I still think Vincent is right there in the mix. And you have DeLon right now too because Morris is out. So that kind of talked in circles there for a little bit. So let me summarize. On the cheap stuff at point guard, I prefer Neto. Then I think I'm going right. Then I think I'm going Vincent. And then, Rubio, great tournament play, but I still don't know what to expect out of him. So I'll put him below those three guys. So now working our way up for other cash game stuff. Anthony Simons at 6'4", Van Vliet at 8'9", and Dame at 10. Those guys are the options at point guard. So let's move on to shooting guard, where you have LeVert. I already talked about him.
Al Horford and Robert Williams both ruled out.
Embiid. Who are they going to put on this guy, man? Oh my God! All right, so we're looking at Blake Griffin, Luke Cornett, and Fiondu Kabengele. Those are and Grant Williams, I guess. That's who the Celtics have now. Okay.
So for the Celtics, which of those guys do we want to play?
Let me see. I missed what you said there, Meansy. I just noticed we don't have him in lineup HQ yet, but maybe this will change. Is Blake Griffin active or did he get hurt?
No, I'm guessing they only dust him off when guys are out. so that's probably why he's not in lineup HQ. He's
So
on the lineups page. Yeah, so he's active. But he'll get thrown in there. Let me see. So we have an if Horford out and we have an if. Okay, here's both of them. All right, so it looks like we're giving the biggest bump to Grant Williams. We got him up to 36 minutes, given 20 minutes to Griffin, 20 minutes to Cornette. So long story short, nothing's going to be here that's better than what I've talked about. The guard value will be better because those guys are going to be out there those guys are out there for freaking 6 fouls, man. They're not out there for fantasy points. They're out there to push their weight around or try to on the big fella. So yeah, I think we can do better.
Okay.
So let's get back to shooting guard. I mentioned LeVert. I mentioned the 2 cheap guys for Washington, DeLon, Miami, Vincent. So let's talk about some other stuff here. Hero at 7-3. They're basically playing 8 guys. The Heat, good matchup against the Pacers. Trent, 6K. They're going up against the Spurs. No OG still. Josh Richardson at 5-7. Those are the guys I'm looking at shooting guards. So let's go to small forward, where you have some familiar names here. You have guys I've already mentioned. LeVert and Hero. Let's talk about guys I haven't mentioned. Jimmy Butler, 8-8. Great matchup. Not playing many guys. So I like him as a spend up here, and Markkanen slightly below him at 8-5. So, and then most of the other guys I like, I've already mentioned. Let's go to power forward, where like some of my favorite plays on the slate were power forward to start the day. And now we just like completely just throw it to the freaking wayside because now there's all sorts of even better plays. So I was this morning, I like Pascal Siakam, 8-6 against San Antonio. Basically season low price tag. Love him. Well, you have Bam there at 8-7. Also like him. I had those 2 guys tagged. Now we have Porzingis with no Kuzma. Now we have Jared Allen and Evan Mobley with no Mitchell and Garland. So we have to figure out who the hell to play. This is a spend up position. I'll say that. And Ty Moore got rolled out. I liked him, but obviously he got rolled out. This is a spend up position. So I'm saying, man, I don't need, this isn't impossible to even like rank. I would say Allen is probably 1. And then that range of Pascal, Bam, and Porzingis is like kind of a coin flip for me, man. Like I still think Siakam has a big night, but I don't think you have to play him now. I did earlier, but there's just so many good plays there. So I think it's those 4 and then Mobley. And then if you need something cheap, Jeremy Grant, and he's only power forward eligible, which makes it difficult because like he's one of the 2 guys on FanDuel that they only give 1 position to for some reason, and he's always power forward eligible. I wish he had small forward eligibility because you can put him there, but that's basically 5 or 6 guys. I'm sorry, I don't have a preference past Allen, and maybe Allen's even like kind of just with all those guys. So I feel confident saying you should pick from those guys. And so at center, it stands the reason a lot of those guys have center eligibility. So basically all the same guys. People who I didn't mention, or I'm sorry, people who only have center eligibility that aren't in that group would be Gafford at 6K and Şengün at 8K. And I feel like we didn't start the show early because I feel like I'm already behind.
No, we're okay. What I find interesting about the whole rundown that you went through is you gave a ton of value, a ton of good mid to upper tier plays. I don't think you mentioned a Embiid or a Luka or like a huge spend up.
Well, Luka's out, so I didn't. It would be but Kyrie.
Kyrie. Sorry.
Yeah, but like Kyrie, Dame. It's like that power forward. There's like a ton of good plays in like the high 8s, low 9s. Like I feel like that is the highest you have to go. Mm-hmm. Maybe Dame would be the top one. But yeah, it's like, and the value isn't awesome. Like LeVert's the only awesome cheap value. Like this other stuff we're talking about is okay. Like Gabe Vincent, I mean, he's going to play a lot of minutes, but he's going to stand in the corner. Like I'd say probably like DeLon Wright and like the Cavs guys, we don't know who's going to play at lunch. So like, yeah, I've talked a lot. Let's hear what TJ has to say.
Okay, you did good. Means, I do want to hear Means. TJ, I do want to hear what you have to say, as Means said. So walk me through your tournament thoughts first, and then you can kind of hit me with some of your favorite positions.
Chaos. So in a single, I kind of want to separate this into 2 categories, building lots of lineups and building like a single entry tournament style lineup. So because of the immense value we're expecting to open up later, but it isn't even projected that way yet because it's trade situations, not injury situations. We have a wild amount of value on Cleveland, but at the same time, I still want to kind of take a pause, back off on it a little bit, because I think what's going to open up in Minnesota and Utah could be even better. So from a single entry standpoint, the players I'm prioritizing in game one of this, I think you can almost fade the first three teams outside of Cleveland. And I don't mean fade as in you could X them out from your player pool, but I got rules right now that I don't want to play more than one player from any of those teams outside of Cleveland, just so I can have maximum swappability later on. The players from Cleveland that I'm targeting that are my biggest priorities are going to be Karis LeVert and Jared Allen. That's the same on both websites. I'm a lot more willing to take a shot on Ricky Rubio on DraftKings than I would be on FanDuel. Raul Neto, kind of the same thing. I don't know how much I'd need him, but if you get there, that's fine. But LeVert and Allen are really going to be my only two priorities from in a single entry setting from that first game. The place I'll most likely be underweight to is going to be Miami, just with all of this stuff that has opened up later. Jimmy Butler and Tyler Herro, Bam Adebayo, and even some of the value, they're all still good plays. But a 40% Gabe Vincent, that to me screams like a great place to pivot in tournaments and make sure that I'm getting some Jalen Noel, some Colin Sexton into those places. Outside of the major value spots like Minnesota, like Utah, and like Cleveland, the two games that I'm looking to target the most are Sacramento and Houston. So Sabonis and Fox, and then on the Houston side, getting some Şengün and maybe some of the mid-range pieces as sprinkles in tournaments. And then the other one is going to be Golden State and Portland. Jordan Poole, Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, Klay Thompson. I'm interested in all of these guys in tournaments today. And then on the other side, I think Damian Lillard's going to be one of the best spend-ups as well. The toughest thing here is there's just so many guards that I want to play. It's going to be tough to get to a guy like Lillard. So he's actually going to be easier to get to on FanDuel than he is on a site like DraftKings. And then Kyrie Irving, where he's 9,800 on FanDuel, I do think is interesting as well. So I'm going to be mixing and matching a lot of different value. I'll be underweight on Miami, and I'll be heavily overweight on Minnesota and Utah.
Okay, very good. Anything else you want to add? I feel like that was a good rundown. Maybe we can save some kind of positional stuff for DK.
Yeah, kind of the last place that I'd want to mention would be Toronto. I like for tournaments, but that's another team that I like quite a bit better on DK. Pascal Siakam, though, like Ameansy said, is wildly cheap on FanDuel and is a great play.
Okay, very good. Means let's kick it over to DK and let's discuss the chaos over on that site.
Happy to. I have 5 guys tagged on DK for what it's worth.
Buddy. And are you like,
I don't know if I'll tell everybody if you don't hold them.
Do you think you have to untag because now things are changing, or?
No, I actually that was the one thing I got before we went live. I was hammering that out, and then we got thrown in the room, and I just couldn't get the FanDuel. So I just fixed my FanDuel stuff as TJ was talking. So no, I do not. But I'm going to talk through some good stuff here. Oh, yeah, there we go. Oh, yeah, look at those. Look at those. Look at how good I look up in that picture. It's only like, I don't know, 7 years ago. There we go. And like 7 years and like, I don't know, 4 Instagram filters or something. So not too bad. Yeah.
Zoom it in. Very nice.
Oh.
It's really the tan. The biggest difference is the tan, honestly. In that photo.
That's a filter.
Yeah, okay. Fair. All right.
All right, let's get this. Let's stop the tomfoolery, Roth. Come on. Yeah, it was all me. I know. All right. So I have, as you can see, I have 3 Cavs tagged, Poole and Butler. Like the Butler price tag is pretty funny to me. I just at 8-1 against the Pacers, I can't think of a safer play, honestly, on the slate. And then I love Poole. He had a really good game on Monday. Didn't even have to play his full minutes. So, and then the 3 Cavs we've kind of talked about enough. So let's talk about some other options that you might be throwing with these guys. I mentioned the cheap Cleveland situation. Again, we're just guessing, man, on these minutes. Like you can move around what you think they do. We have it split down the middle. Neto's 3K and Rubio's 4K, maybe a little closer for me on DK. In the sense that maybe Rubio's closer to Neto. But I don't know, man. They trust Neto, so I don't think he's at the risk of like losing minutes to Rubio, and mainly because Rubio's probably not going to play a ton. So that's a tough one. I think you're probably playing one of them though. And it's going to matter a little bit of what you do at other spots. But I think it's definitely one of those guys as a cheap option. And like you could do, so basically you do like Poole at point guard, LeVert at shooting guard, and then one of those dudes at the guard spot is probably what you're looking at, in my opinion. Oh, I didn't. That's what I said. Poole. Yeah. Poole, LeVert, then one of the Cavs. So then some spin ups that you might be landing on, maybe a util, or depending on how the timing of the games works out. I would say Hero. He's point guard, shooting guard. I don't know who's making all that noise, but I hear a bunch of it.
It's TJ. It was TJ.
It's TJ, yeah. Let's see. Nothing else cheap. And then spending up maybe Jaylen Brown, he's shooting guard, small forward, maybe Dame. But I think anything else that you're landing on util is probably just going to be the last piece and not something you're going out of your way to get. So let's go small forward. We have Grant Williams with a decent projection, actually, and the position sucks. I didn't factor that in when I went through everything. That small forward is actually rough. So I'm going to rattle off some cheapies here that I think are in play. I don't have a preference on any of them, but I think it's I guess I'll work my way up from the bottom. Grant Williams at 3.2, Jetty Osman at 3.5, Kispert at 3.6, and then who's the other one? Oh, Strus at 3.9. So I think probably looking at one of those. If not, you just go Josh Richardson at 5.6. And I mentioned Jaylen Brown, but like him and Tatum, like those guys are fine spin ups. Like they're without two essential starters. So I think those guys are fine. Then we get to the front court where we're going to be talking about a lot of the same guys. So like power forward. It's like power forward and center is like, for me, I think, is Butler, Mobley, Allen. Like Butler power forward, Allen center, Mobley forward. There you go. That's what I'd be doing. Other options here. Olynyk I like a lot, and his projection stands to get better if these Jazz guys get ruled out. Porzingis I like as a spend up at 9.6. That's about it. And I want to touch on center real quick because then I want to talk about late swap stuff. Because I know TJ alluded to it, and I should have when I talked FanDuel. Any centers here? The only center I would consider that's like just center eligible will probably be like Gafford on the cheap end, Siakam and Bam up top, and then Embiid up top. I think that would cover it. And like I don't think you personally mess with this Boston stuff because who the hell knows what's going to happen, especially when you talk about foul trouble. So real quick before I pass it back. Mm-hmm. I think Noel is one of the best plays on the slate if D'Angelo's out. So like that game starts 2 hours after the slate locks. So you need to factor that in when you're building. Do I take shitty Boston value when I could get great Noel value? So like probably not if we all think D'Angelo's not going to play. Mm-hmm. And the same that goes for FanDuel as well. So like you think about that when you're looking at this, like, all right, well, do I play Grant Williams at small forward? Or do I just wait and like give myself flexibility and play an awesome play in Noel? Like, don't play Grant Williams. Play someone, just like put in a dummy and then figure it out later. Like I would say plan on Noel being a really good play because I agree with what TJ said. It's highly likely this dude doesn't play. Okay,
very good. TJ, I want to talk tournaments, and I have a specific question for you. Usually my game plan is I take Meansy score plays and then I add in a little bit of flavor. But the flavor that I want to add is rather expensive because I want Porzingis and Kyrie, which means I cannot afford all of Meansy's core plays. So as you look at those five guys, and maybe you've got it up, maybe we can pull it up. Which of those guys are you willing to fade in tournaments?
Before TJ answers.
Yes, please, Means.
Take out one of the Cavs front court guys. That's easy. The correlation, one of those dudes. Yeah. Go ahead, TJ.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Take out probably Evan Mobley, but one of the two Cavs players, leave one of them in. I'm personally just playing LeVert and Jared Allen in my DK lineup there. And then I would probably remove Jimmy Butler as well.
I already did.
The one thing
he
is,
got axed. Yeah.
The one thing is for tournaments, like I won't tell you to not play Kyrie, and who was the other one you wanted to go?
Zinger.
My two favorite spend ups though are going to be Anthony Edwards without D'Angelo Russell, probably. And then Damian Lillard, I think, is going to be my second favorite one. And then that works really nice if you got Poole in that lineup as well. It does get tough when you just want to play so many guards here. And that's the biggest thing I want to hammer home for DraftKings today is I'm taking some weird positional stance. I'm getting to the only player in my entire pool who has shooting guard and small forward eligibility that I'm allowing to be played at shooting guard is going to be Anthony Edwards. Anyone else who has small forward eligibility, they have to be played there because there's so many guards I want to get to, and I want to maximize my ability to get to them today. And then on my utility position from on lineup HQ, I'm going build rules, build settings, scrolling down to utility exposure. It's 50% point guard, 50% shooting guard because I only want guards at my utility position today just to max. Not that there's other plays that don't work there. They're totally fine. I just really want to maximize the amount of guards I can get to on this slate. So that's kind of how I'm rolling things. Also making a rule that I want at least two to three of LeVert, Noel, and Sexton, just because I think they're going to be the three best values today. And I want to make sure I get those guys in my lineups. And if they don't happen to pan out, well, LeVert and Sexton are still both at 9 o'clock. So I'm still going to have some time to adjust. So because there's a lot of positional eligibility, I don't really want to go too much position by position, but I'll say at guards, I'm prioritizing Noel, Sexton, Clarkson, Poole, and Damian Lillard. And then the tournament people I like mixing in are going to be, and then as well as Karis LeVert at the shooting guard position. And then the players I want to be mixing in tournaments quite a bit. Getting to a ton of Anthony Edwards, a little bit of De'Aaron Fox, Fred VanVleet, LaMelo Ball, maybe a little Anthony Simons, a little Jaden Ivey, Malik Monk, and DeLon Wright. But it's mostly going to be like those guys that I mentioned. I'm talking 80 to 90% each of those cheap guards. At the forward position today, my favorite is going to be Anthony Edwards to use in the small forward position. Jimmy Butler is fine at power forward eligibility. I just think he's of the somewhat chalky plays, he's one of the ones I'm okay with pivoting off of. Evan Mobley is the one I'm looking to pivot off of if I'm only playing one of the two Cleveland bigs. And then I really like getting to somebody like a Jason Tatum in tournaments because we have so much value today. I don't mind Kristaps Porzingis, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Jeremy Grant. Those people in that last game are people I really like as well. And then you can maybe even go to somebody like a Taurean Prince today for some extra value in Minnesota, depending on who we get out there. And the biggest place that I want to really hammer home is Utah, because not only is Mike Conley probably not going to play, but they mentioned Vanderbilt and Beasley are involved as well. If Beasley's not involved in the trade, Beasley's a great play if he's playing. If Beasley is not playing, that just makes Clarkson and Sexton even better. If Vanderbilt's out, I want to play a ton of Olenek and Kessler. I'll get to some marking in tournaments as well. And that's really kind of how I want to go about things today.
Okay, great walkthrough there. Did get a couple people asking about Bobby Boucher. Any interest in Boucher?
I will be getting to some Chris Boucher in tournaments, yeah. I'm just doing a new build right now. I can tell you exactly how much I'll have.
Okay, very good. Guys, we have about 9 minutes left for some QQs. Hey, if you're watching this content and thought, wow, that's amazing. How much am I paying for this again? The answer is nothing. It's free. All that we ask is that you hit that thumbs up over on the YouTube. So please make sure you're doing that. And don't forget, right after this show, we're rolling into some Super Bowl sports betting content. So stick around. You are not permitted to go eat dinner. You have to hang out with us.
Got like Chief's gonna be on like the bookends. He's
right.
Gonna be like, he's like the bun.
He's the bun, the crunch time meat. All right. Let's dive into some of these QQs. As always, I am starting with the RG Discord, where there's just a ton of questions. Scrolling up. Here we go. DK Cash, is it optimal to save that guard spot for Noel or Sexton over Neto? Or Sexton over Neto?
Oh, yeah, that's a great call. I didn't even go over that scenario. Like, if that's me, like, you can easily convince yourself to play one of those Cleveland guys because they're going to look decent.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, if you put Noel's projection in there, he's going to look way better. Play LeVert, bypass the Cleveland uncertainty, and wait for Noel. That's what I would do personally. I mean, it's risky. Like, is D'Angelo going to play? Probably not.
Yeah. Like the other thing too is like Kyle Anderson is questionable. Rudy Gobert is questionable. Jordan McLaughlin is questionable. They might end up heavily undermanned. Like Naz Reid might end up being one of the best plays on the slate. And we really don't know yet. So I agree. I'm really inclined to just play LeVert and Allen in that first game and then just wait and see for the rest of the slate.
Okay. Very good. Let's see. AJ says DK Cash, Neto Zinger, or Rubio Jaylen Brown means.
I mean, honestly, I would do neither. And like we just said, I would not waste it. I would not waste it on the Cleveland. Like it might not work out. So like if Neto's the chalkier one and he scores 28 and Russell plays and whatever you pivot to doesn't work, it might not work out, but I think it will. So I would play. Yeah, go ahead.
From a tournament standpoint, just to kind of let everyone know where my feelings are at with those plays, I got 90% Noel, 75% Sexton, and then I only have 13% Rubio and 11% Neto.
Okay, good to know. Steve O points out Celtics starting Hauser instead of Williams makes Hauser a good cheap guy, right?
I mean, he did well the other night. He's just not. I just don't think it's. I don't think it's sustainable. And he's like when I looked, he was like 5 for 6 from 3. Like when I looked at like his flame emoji, I don't know what he finished at. I know he played really well from a fantasy perspective, but I will repeat that I think you should save for Noel.
Okay, very good. Mike says FanDuel GPP. TJ, Embiid is just screaming to be a slate buster at 5% owned versus these scrub Celtics bigs, right?
Yes, but keep in mind that he is still questionable, and while that's usually been the case where he plays all the time, Boston is sitting people, and they did say he's still a game time decision about 15 minutes ago. So you do want to be prepared that, hey, maybe he may not even play.
Okay, very good. FanDuel single entry, Mobley or Allen, Rubio or Neto. That question broke me, but hopefully you got it.
Of the two, for me, it's Allen and Rubio.
Okay, very good. How many Cleveland players in FanDuel single entry?
2.
Very nice. DK GPP, is Bay a solid run back for Cleveland versus or Abdia?
Those aren't Avdia and Bay are on 2 different teams, but I would rather go Avdia than Bay.
Okay, very good. FanDuel Cash 2v2 means LaMelo Bam or Dame Time and Siakam.
Oh, LaMelo Bam. That's not fair. Gotta ask me to pick between those two. Let's go with the LaMelo one.
Okay, very good. DK Cash question means is more than Cleveland. It'd be sweet if I could read today. More than 2 Cleveland guys too many in terms of limiting yourself?
On which site?
It was a DK Cash question.
I think LeVert and the front court. I think the front court guys are 2 of the better spins on the slate. So, like the stuff I'm interested in later is going to be cheap. So, if you're concerned about spending at Mobley or Allen, I would not be concerned.
Okay. We got narrative time here. TJ, this is a GPP question, fortunately for memes. Any birthday love for Klay Thompson? Not just that. He grew up in Portland. He looks to be a nice pivot off of Poole. He's under 2% owned. Does all of that combined equal a good or great GPP play?
Klay Thompson is a good or great GPP play because he's the second best shooter of all time and because Steph Curry is not in the lineup today.
Okay. That's fair.
I'll go for some narratives. I will go for some narratives, but that's not one. I don't think the players care if it's their birthday. If anything, maybe they were drinking last night and they're going to play worse.
That is exactly my point. I said the same thing.
In his hometown too. It's like,
caught up with so many old friends, did shots.
Right. To be clear, the LeBron narrative last night was a lock, right? That he was going to score
Well, if you listen to a bunch of people, they said he was going to break it on TNT against Milwaukee, and then like 90 minutes before the game, they started like rattling off who all was going to be there, all his friends and family. Kareem's there, like, oh, that is a lot.
Yeah.
He is breaking the hell out of that record.
Yeah. All right. Let's see where are we at here. Power forward spot, FanDuel single entry, TJ Mobley or Allen?
Allen.
FanDuel GPP, that's not Kyler Murray. It's probably Keegan Murray or Hardaway.
Murray, I guess, but I don't like either.
Okay. DK GPP, cheap point guard, DeLon Wright or Neto, or neither, and wait for some guy named Noel. Is he point guard?
Yeah, definitely Noel.
Yeah. Okay. Scrolling down. Fit Crook says DK Cash means really quickly. Could you cover your favorite cheap small forward plays on DK Cash? The answer is that guy for Boston that you don't really want to play, I think.
Yeah, maybe. That's the issue is I keep like maybe speaking too quickly on it. Like you got to play somebody there. So yeah, maybe it's him.
And when you say him, it's Williams, right? That's his name.
Yeah, because he's still gonna have to play a lot. I would say him or Strus or Richardson. Yeah, you got to play somebody. Let me look real quick at our what ifs. I know we're kind of getting short on time. I just want to see if there's anyone that stands out. That's Utah. Let me look. I'm getting there. And then it would be no. Yeah. I think you got to go with like the Boston guy or something. Yeah.
All right. Less than a minute until lock. I'm scrolling just down a bit. DK Cash, I got to play Levert, right? Lightning round.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
TJ Wright or Sexton, FanDuel single entry?
Sexton.
DK GPP, is Jetty Osman a good pivot off Levert?
No.
DK GPP,
He's
Zinger
fine to
or
play,
Kawhi?
but not off Levert.
Okay. Zinger or Kawhi?
Kawhi, because it still leaves you swappability later. But
Very
Zinger's
good.
a better play.
In a vacuum. Gotcha. Ball says, means he's Zinger and DK Cash or wait it out?
That's a good question. I'm fine with him.
All right. DK Cash, Noel Van Vliet or Zinger Neto? It's Noel Van Vliet. All right.
Thank you.
You want Noel.
Oh, yeah.
DK Cash with my build. I got a little more money at small forward. Means you cool with Caleb Martin? He's projecting decent.
Not cool with that. Sorry.
Okay. That's fair. Carolina guy, FanDuel single entry, Jay Rich or E. Gordon?
Jay Rich.
Getting a more Caleb Martin questions. This one for a FanDuel GPP. Do either of you have any interest in a little Caleb Martin?
He is in my pool, but I don't think I'm getting to very much of him at all. It looks like I got 1% Caleb Martin. He's in 2 of 150.
They're 2 of 150. By the way, Wave Makers would like to let you know, TJ, that you are the smartest one in this company. Not just like on the show. You're the smartest person in the entire company.
It might be the world.
It may just be the universe. We don't know.
TJ, why does your wife have the username Wave Makers?
Right. Explain to us. Yeah. Explain to us where you come from. Oh, man. All right. Hey, by the way, we have hit the lock. Don't forget that in just a couple of minutes here, we've got a whole new crew coming in. We're talking Super Bowl bets. My bet is irrelevant because all I do is weather, but I think the Eagles. Give me the Eagles. Meansy, am I wrong?
I'm sorry. I'm making weird faces because there's a aroma coming through the door.
Meansy's dog shit. Meansy's dog shit on the other side of the door, and it smells horrible. And he's like, "Can we? He's in the private chat. Like, can we get out of here? It's really stinking." We gotta wait. We gotta hold down the fort until the next crew comes in.
I'm fine. I'm a trooper.
Yeah. Chug that beer, man. Is your wife home? And if so, what are the odds that she cleans the horrid smelling dog poop?
100%, 0%. I'm sorry. Yes, and 0%.
Yeah. That's about what I thought. That checks out there. Taking a few more QQs. I'm going to jump into the Discord. Don't forget, just a few minutes away from our Super Bowl betting spectacular here. DK GPP, TJ, if every guy ends up being out in Minnesota, Utah, who's the better play, Olynyk or Naz Reid?
Oh, definitely Nas.
Okay. DK Cash, Bam, or
no? Yeah, ask the QQ. It's all good. This isn't important.
Okay. DK Cash, Bam, or Jaylen Brown?
I'm probably still go Bam. I like them both though.
Okay. I just feel like you mentioned 3 Heat guys that were good plays, right? It's like Bam,
Bam, Butler, Vincent.
No, and there was another one.
Struce, Martin. Look at all these guys.
Holy smokes! What a
oh my God! Look at Nick's hair, man. Nick put TJ to shame. Look at that. Look at that lettuce.
Yeah, look at that lettuce. What's up? Hey, the crew is here, and I believe I'm going to kind of hand things over to Nick here so that he can introduce the rest while we jump out.
Yes, yeah, Steve, kick me out. Kick me out, Steve.
Later means. Yeah.
Well,
what's up, guys?
Yeah, great to be here. Great to see a lot of you guys again. I know Justin and Chief and TJ. We did some stuff during the regular season and the preseason for the NFL. Great to see you guys again.
I was gonna say I feel a little hurt that I got booted out of our first show of the year, Food for Thought for Chop here for the Super Bowl.
It happens, man.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have you won
Life
$1
comes
million?
at you fast.
Yeah,
we were on a long line to get Chop and beer on the podcast tonight. But if all goes to plan, I want to have an NFL draft special coming up. So I'm thinking that'll be good. We always have drama in the NFL, so like we got to take our NBA hat off, this is probably the craziest slate of the season with all this news and everything like that. So Roth, you did a fantastic job. You and your hair. You don't have hair problems, so. I dig.
Well, I appreciate that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bounce, and I'm just going to tune in because I am going to be betting on the Super Bowl. I'm going to be betting heavily, and I'm counting on you guys to lead me to some money. So do your worst, do your best, and I'm looking forward to hearing it. Later, guys.
Appreciate it. Well, guys, welcome in. Welcome to the Super Bowl betting show. We have some RG folks in here. We have some scores and odds, little mixed branding here, but plenty of sharp information. Basically, what we're going to do, we're going to go market by market. We'll look at the spread, the total. We have some guys coming in here looking straight at the quarterback prop market, the running backs, receivers, and tight ends. And then I believe Luch is closing us out with the novelty props a little bit later in the show. So we can just some general information about the Super Bowl right now. The line has moved a little bit. We're looking at KC plus 1.5. Philly obviously flipped on that at minus 1.5. The total it opened at 49.5 and is up to 50.5 right now. Before we get into the props, anybody have any general thoughts on the spread or the total?
Yeah, I would say that everything I've researched leads me to believe we could have some points scored in this game, quite a few of them. So I'm on the over here.
Yeah, I like that take too. We talked about that earlier on our podcast. Check out Food for Thought. It was a good one. But I like the over. I think there's going to be points. And, strength of schedule with the Eagles. We touched on that. They really haven't faced an upper tier quarterback this season. So it should be fun.
Yeah, I think for me, and I mean, you can get this on scores and odds, of course, but it just feels like, and then look, it is minus 180. Okay, so I get it, but at PointsBet, man, Chiefs over 22.5 minus 180. That's like an alt line to me. So where everybody else is, 24.5, 25.5. I think getting them at 22.5, even at minus 180, I take it. And then for me, I think that could be a staple. And I think I did talk about this on Food for Thought as well. I think this could be a staple of any type of parlays you want to get done for this game. And you could easily turn that, minus 180 into some plus money real quickly with the right, props or money line or anything. You start making some combinations on some good props, and suddenly you got 4 props at, plus 105 or something. So that's kind of how I would take that prop. If you don't feel great about your return on the over 22.5, turn that into a nice parlay with some really strong props, and you're going to get better odds.
Good stuff. I am curious with the guys who do like the over in this game. The Super Bowl has been notorious in recent years with these teams just start slow, right? We've heard past players, they say it's not quite a normal football game for obvious reasons, right? It's the biggest sporting spectacle in the country for the entire year. But guys don't have access to their normal pregame routines. They get sent back into the tunnel. There's this huge media fest before the game. People are on the field. There's the pressure of the situation. We've seen younger players struggle early on in games. Is there any advantage potentially to not betting the over live and then maybe seeing that number cross through 50, 49, 48, 47 potentially if there's a low scoring first quarter? Or do you just jump on it right off the bat and trust your read?
I'll go first, and I'd say I'm jumping on it. I get what you're saying. I've thought about that too, but the risk you run is that Philly is a very good first half team. They average over 19 points a game in the first half, and they kind of jump out quick and they bury you, and then they turn to the run. So I'm thinking that they could still jump out quick, but KC keeps pace and they can't just rely on the run. So I don't know, you run that risk that, and then on the KC side, you're talking about a team that's been here 3 times in recent years. This is the 3rd time. Andy Reid practices this stuff. He's got an idea. This is exactly what he goes over this whole entire week in practices. This is how long the national anthem is going to take compared to a normal game. We're going to practice like this, and this is how long, he's got all this stuff ironed out. So I think they might be less affected by it. So I'm going to jump on it from the beginning, but there's definitely an avenue where you kick back and you wait a couple drives and see what plays out, and then maybe you can get a better number.
Can I add one thing here? Because, Chop came out with the crazy tidbit. Something else that Kansas City did this year, I'm not sure if anybody knows. Basically, their practice, it's set up just like the Kansas City practice facility, like even down to the location of the offices. That's an interview I heard earlier this week. So Andy Reid has done pretty much virtually everything he can do to try to keep this team in some form of a normal state, to make them feel like they're in Kansas City. And I guess I'm piggybacking off Chop here, but I think this is probably one of the more explosive Super Bowls we've seen in a while. I think both teams are going to get out to a good start, just virtue of style of play and level of competition. I.e., the Chiefs' defense, I think, is going to be able to yield points to the Eagles early. And I think the Eagles' offense is good enough to where the Eagles haven't seen an offense this good all season in terms of ball distribution, play calling, so forth and so on. So I think those two dynamics working together, the Eagles possibly not being able to get that pass rush going as much as they want because of Mahomes, I think that's going to open up the scoring early here. And then, of course, if we see scoring early, I think we'll see it late because coaches will try and make adjustments, and then, a busted play here, busted coverage here, you got a big play, and then the game kind of flips. So I like the over. Both of these teams can score points, and for what it's worth, I am on the Eagles minus 1.5.
Chief, I got to say that hurts, man. I don't know if you can see my Tom Brady jersey here, but I'm still a little bit hurt from a few years ago watching the Eagles take him down. So I'm trying as hard as I can to get behind the Chiefs in this spot emotionally and from a betting perspective, but I don't know if I'm quite there. Luke, did you have anything that you wanted to add before we dive into these player prop markets?
No, let's dive into it. I think, they hit on a lot of points that I was going to bring up. I like the over in this one as well, and I think it's going to be a really good game. So let's get to it, my man.
Sweet. Well, we love when everybody's aligned on one play. No doubt about that. Chop, we could bring you in first because I know you're the quarterback guru in the NFL.
No, I'm not the guru.
We've seen some significant line movement with Patrick Mahomes on the passing yards. His number continues to go up throughout the week. Every time I go and check on scoresandodds.com and I look at the different books, the lowest number available is not there anymore. Yesterday I looked, it was at 285, and now I'm looking at 292 on FanDuel. Hurts' number has stayed a little bit more consistent. We're looking at 238.5 on FanDuel, 240 on DK, with the other books falling pretty much in consensus right there. What are you expecting from these guys? Like passing yards, passing touchdowns, anything like that? And in general, just what are you expecting to see from Mahomes with Andy Reid admitting that he's not at 100% health? And, of course, with Jalen Hurts dealing with this shoulder injury late in the season, and we've seen his accuracy decrease pretty significantly across the last few games that he's taken the field.
Generally speaking, I think there's an uptick on both these guys in this game. Hurts just really doesn't get pushed very much, at least in the regular season this year and in the playoffs either. It just didn't get pushed with pace or with competition very much. So the numbers look bad. The numbers look down, at least, they're subpar. And I think KC can push them a little bit in pace, pick up the plays and make them score a little bit more. So a little bit more passing for Hurts. Mahomes, this is, just my thought is that they're going to attack the back end of this defense, and that's how they're going to get it done. And they're not going to waste plays grinding it into the line of scrimmage with Pacheco or McKinnon. So I think Mahomes over props generally are pretty good too. Some of the ones I've highlighted, though, I'll start off with one where, gosh, man, I like this one too. I was on the podcast earlier, and I gave one that I thought was really good. This one, man, I'm feeling good about this one. I hope it don't burn me, man. But Jalen Hurts' first touchdown, over under 10.5 yards, 10.5 yards out. I'm going over that. It's only minus 120. I don't know what you might be able to get a better number than that somewhere, but minus 120 is what I got it at yesterday. All right, like this to me feels like stealing almost. I've got Jalen Hurts. He is a big play guy. When he gets inside the 10-yard line, he is bad as a quarterback, man. He takes sacks. He's not very accurate. He's got like a 70 QBR. It's not good. He's got 24 passing touchdowns this year. Only 7 of them have come from 11 yards or in. That's a pretty big discrepancy right there. So they, when they get inside that 5-yard line or so, it's Hurts running, it's Miles Sanders running, it's Boston Scott. They don't pass a whole lot inside the 5. You'd need this thing, they'd need this thing to fall just the ball would have to fall between the 5 and the 10 on that drive, and then you pass it in. They can't get it in running, and a bootleg, you hit go there or something like that. But it would take a lot for this to happen, I think. And not only are we getting the touchdown over 10, it has to happen on his first touchdown. So that narrows the field even more. Just the first touchdown has to be over 10.5. Or for us to lose this bet, only the first touchdown would have to be under 10.5 yards. It's just not likely. Like it doesn't feel like it's likely. Like 13 of his 24 touchdowns this year outside the red zone. Like he's a big play guy. A whole bunch of these from 30 plus yards. He's not good inside that number. So I'm taking the over 10.5 yards here, minus 120 on his first touchdown pass. Man, I feel like I'm getting some good odds right there. So that's my first one. And I'll go to Mahomes for you now. I'm gonna go against the grain on this one. And the numbers are 50-50 on this, but I'm going Mahomes over the 18.5 rushing yards. Okay, a lot of people are looking at the ankle. Didn't run hardly at all against Cincinnati, just that last bootleg to get out there and to get the field goal. But I think 18.5 is a pretty low number. He exceeded this number the majority of the games this year. When I look at the Philly defense, they've given up this number quite a bit this year. Actually, I got the numbers right here. They've given up this number in 12 of the games this year, and they've suppressed it 8 times. So, or 7 times. So the odds are in our favor. But what I'm thinking is, my line of thought here is, you got the pressure coming from the ends. That's where they generate their most pressure with Reddick and those boys. He's the best in the game at stepping up in the pocket, finding a little space. 3 weeks now from the ankle injury removed. Maybe he's a little bit more mobile. I need 2 plays out of him. If he steps up in the pocket 2 plays and runs, he can get this 18.5 yards in 2 plays. It's the Super Bowl. I think, we'll have a third down where he needs 7 or 8 yards for the first down. He'll step up, see open field. Also, factoring into this, the Eagles are playing a extremely high rate of man coverage in the playoffs. Why? Because their competition dictates it. The Giants don't have a receiver that really hurts you, so you can play man coverage and not fear that. Last week you're down to your 7th string quarterback for San Francisco. You're not fearing anything there. You're playing man coverage and you're super aggressive. Well, the Chiefs don't have a lot of receivers that hurt you in the passing game or you fear. So I think we see Eagles play a lot of man coverage. that helps rushing quarterbacks. You got your back turned to him, takes off one time, two times, and I think you hit this prop. So I like Mahomes over 18.5 rushing yards. I'm going to buck the injury that everybody's thinking. Stick with Mahomes, 25.5 completions. I'm going over that. Throughout the year, the number was about 50-50 on this, but I just feel like with that pass rush, we're going to see a lot of targets at the line of scrimmage, easy completions for Mahomes, nothing too volatile downfield. So I think he racks up a whole bunch of them right there at the line of scrimmage, and we get a good number. And then I'll go for a bonus for you guys, a big plus number here. Not necessarily a quarterback, but the prop has to do with quarterbacks. Most quarterback sacks in the game for a defense, Chiefs or Eagles. The Chiefs are plus 140. That's a pretty big number right there, considering that throughout the course of the year, like Jalen Hurts takes a lot more sacks than Patrick Mahomes. A lot. Mahomes in 19 games, 29 sacks he's taken. That's not that much. Hurts in 17 games took 40 sacks. He sits back in the pocket. If he doesn't find his first read, sometimes he'll panic and he'll take the sack. Okay, I'm getting a big plus number here. It's games this year where he got sacked 4 times in 3 different games this year. Patrick Mahomes, that happened one time, outlier game against Tennessee. Jalen Hurts takes a lot of sacks, man. So I'm getting like if this number was close to even, I'd say it's a toss up. Let's not. But plus 140, I give you the Chiefs for the most sacks in this game, and that's all I got for you.
I like that last one a lot. I was looking at it last night.
Write it down. I said that's what I'm writing down in the blue notebook right there, Chop. That's the deep dive right there, man. Whew.
Yeah, I love it actually. I was looking at it last night and I was talking with a couple of friends about the prop because I personally don't watch the Eagles a ton throughout the regular season. I mean, they've been in a lot of non-competitive game scripts. You turn it on in the first half, the game's blown out of the water. I didn't realize how many sacks Jalen Hurts had been taking, and that was a great breakdown that you just had, Chop. The other thing that I think people are overlooking in this spot, and I think it also supports your play on the over from Mahomes completions, is when you look at some of the better defenses that the Chiefs have played this year, there's been a very concerted effort to get the ball out quick. They played San Francisco. Mahomes had an average time to throw of 2.4 seconds. They played Denver in week 14. Mahomes had an average time to throw of 2.51 seconds. The last couple of weeks against Jacksonville and Cincinnati, obviously with the ankle injury, he's gotten the ball out in 2.82 seconds or quicker in both of those games, which are both quicker than his season average of 2.85 seconds time to throw, according to Pro Football Focus. So I think you're going to see Mahomes try to get that ball out quick, especially against a pretty talented Philadelphia secondary unit. Personally, I'll probably end up tailing both of those plays. I think those are great looks.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Appreciate the information. I know we have Chief coming in. Favorite position for everybody betting the NFL, the running back position. No volatility, right? Especially in a game like this where you have absolutely no idea who's going to be getting the majority of the touches. Chief, you got to give us some insight here because I think everybody is running around confused. Are we going to see Miles Sanders? Are we going to see Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott, Pacheco? Is Clyde Edwards-Helaire going to come back? Who are the guys that we should be targeting in this spot?
Well, I think Luch wanted to hop in. I've got my stuff ready. Luch, did you have something you wanted to pop in there?
Just last thought on the sack prop that Chop brought up. When you have an offensive line that's as good as Philly's, if you get a little bit spoiled and think you can sit back there a super long time, because oftentimes you can hang in the pocket and just lock onto that first read. So I love those odds. So I think I'm hopping on that with you guys too.
Coolio. Well, back to the most volatile position in football with teams, the Patriots, the 49ers. God, you can't pin these running back situations down. Don't worry. Your good, friendly neighborhood chief is here to help you. And I'm going to start with some high or plus odds. These are going to be a little bit more volatile, so don't put your big money on these. You just sprinkle this in to get a nice little return. I'm going to start with a win, and it's the Scott to score a touchdown. And usually I wouldn't really be on Boston Scott props, but folks, I mean, we're getting them at plus 500 most places. with the past couple of weeks, he's picked up a rushing touchdown in the last 3 games. 2 of them were against the Giants. I understand. He picked up one against San Francisco. And instead of playing Russian roulette with these guys, I've got some Gainwell props that I like and stuff like that. But I think in terms of the touchdown props for this team, I mean, we've got Miles Sanders at plus 120, minus 110, plus 127, plus 125, and minus 105 and that's spread between FanDuel, BetMGM, Sugar House, PointsBet, DraftKings. So those are like your odds across the board. But Boston Scott at plus 500, I think that's valuable. That's a valuable prop to get in on. Like I said, you don't have to put the house on it, but I think, a few sprinkles here in that one is really good. So that's my one outlier where it's like, okay, I think because of the odds, we need to get in on it. Now let's head over to what I think the big one is. And this is the one that I think most people should be interested in. And that's Kenneth Gainwell over 19.5 rushing yards. We get him at minus 110 on FanDuel. And yeah, I know we can reference the previous games and say, well, it was garbage time. It was this, it was that. But here's the deal. If Kenneth Gainwell 5 attempts, he's going over 20 yards. Like, he's shown that he can be explosive. This offensive line is going to be pushing guys around. Against the Giants, 5 carries, 35 yards, 12 carries, 112 against the Giants, and then 14 for 48 against San Fran. I know they were up big, but I'm expecting him to get him to be involved in his offense. Another one that you find is you can get the pass or rush plus receiving yards. He's around 33.5, 34.5 most places. I would get in on that one as well. He looks to be picking up 2 to 3 targets a game, and all it takes for him is one big screen, and he could possibly pick up most of the chunk of his rushing and receiving yardage combined. So I like that one. Now, the other thing about Gainwell too is when you look at separately, you may come out a little bit better. So he's at 19.5 rushing. His receiving yard prop is, I think it was 10.5. Let me check. 10.5. You can get it at 10.5 minus 125 on PointsBet. So I do like to kind of break it down like that because sometimes this combined total, they'll juice it a little bit when essentially you could just take them both and have a better chance to hit them both. But I still like the combined as well. Another one that I like, and this is going to be an under. We've seen his rushing role, if you will, decline over the past couple of weeks, and that's Jerick McKinnon. You can get him as high as 21. As high as 21.5 on FanDuel, which is where I would take it. Minus 110 under 21.5. I think that's another good one. This is Pacheco's backfield, and then we've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire coming back. Now, I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be on the field 20% of the time, but even if he's on the field 10% of the time, I think that's enough to eat into McKinnon and a little bit of Pacheco. And I am on the Pacheco under carries as well, just because I expect, and this is more of a game script play. I think we've got Pacheco around 11.5 rushing attempts. And in my estimation, or just how I see the game playing out, I think the Chiefs are going to be behind in this game at some point, and which is going to yield them to have to pass the ball anyway. So I'm going to lean on the under 11.5 rushing attempts for Pacheco. And then in terms of Miles Sanders is the one mixed bag for me in this game. And believe it or not, I probably feel better about his under receiving yard prop than I do anything, just because he hasn't really been picking up a whole lot of targets in this offense. And in fact, I mean, we've got him at, he's 4.5. I still like the under. He's not getting enough work in the passing game. So I still like the under 4.5. I know he could pick up a screen, take it to the house, but under 4.5 at minus 110, I'm in on it. And those are some of my main props for the running back position.
It's great stuff, Chief. I was just pulling up his snap count as well. I didn't realize 3 of the last 4 games that Sanders has played, it's not even just that he hasn't been involved as a pass catcher. He hasn't even been on the field in pass catching situations. He had 9 passing snaps in week 17. Divisional round, only 8 passing snaps. And then last week, only 8 passing snaps. So I know there've been some blowout game scripts, and there hasn't been a need to go full throttle with Sanders or with any of those players. But looking at that, and then just looking at the general snap counts, like you're mentioning guys like Gainwell or even looking at Scott, and the snap counts have been pretty equal. And then you look at the numbers on the market, and you have Sanders, like you said, around 60 rushing yards, more receiving yards, and then you have Gainwell in the high teens and the 20s, and Scott even lower than that. So I think it's great information that you're sharing, and I think I'm definitely going to join you on the Gainwell for sure.
Hey, can you look up Pacheco while we're at it and talking about running backs here?
One more
ahead,
thing. I am so sorry. I'm sorry, guys. Like it's so much, right? I even got to go back. I had this written down in my notebook, and look, man. So you remember I gave you the Boston Scott touchdown prop. I don't know if you guys have looked at this. Does anyone have any idea what his rushing prop is? The lowest one. If you haven't looked it up, don't worry. 5.5 on PointsBet, minus 135. Like, give me that all day. He's getting 5 or 6 carries a game right now. I'll take over 5. I'll take over 7.5 at minus 125 on BetMGM or minus 140 at DraftKings. Like, I'll take them on all the sports books. I love the over 5.5 at PointsBet though. Like that feels free. And I remember I talked about the fact that you can get the Chiefs at minus over 22.5 there for minus 180. You can combine that with the Boston Scott prop right now and go ahead and get a nice little juicy parlay going and increase those odds. So I just want to squeeze that in. Sorry, didn't mean to talk so much. Back over to you, my brother.
Luch, Chop, do you guys have any thoughts on the running back market before we move on?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with a lot of what he said. I feel like Gainwell and Miles Sanders, that duo, is a very, very poor man's version of Elliott and what's his name? The really good back from Dallas.
Tony Pollard.
Pollard and Gainwell are actually both from Memphis, so it makes sense. But like one guy kind of runs almost like he's stuck in mud, but not quite. Sanders is a little bit better, but Gainwell is explosive. Pollard is so like I feel like you get a game like this. This might be a Gainwell type of game where he gets more snaps and more touches because I think he's the more effective back, and this is your last game of the year.
Chief, do you have any reservations at all with the snap counts being misleading the last couple of weeks with the 30-point margins of victory? Do you think that contributed at all to the fact that Scott or Gainwell saw more action on the field and maybe we will see more Miles Sanders and less of the other two guys this week? Or do you expect it to continue to be sort of a committee approach in the Super Bowl?
I think it's going to be a committee approach. I haven't seen the Eagles commit to one since Shady McCoy. So I just don't see how all of a sudden Miles Sanders gets 80% of the work this week and these other guys get pennies on the dollar. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think they're going to have packages for all of these guys at some point in the game. Now that still doesn't mean that Miles Sanders can't break one because I don't trust the Kansas City defense, but I don't think Miles Sanders is getting all the work. If I had to, I'd say Miles Sanders is on the field 60% of the time in this game. If I had to guess, like right off the top of my head, straight up competitive game, I don't think he's in 75. I think it's 60. I think that's the number.
He has not played more than 40 snaps in a game since week 14, for what it's worth. Sanders.
There it is.
You could be onto something.
There it is.
Luch, any running back thoughts?
Yeah, I like the McKinnon under rushing yards. I wrote it up on RotoGrinders, I think, today, especially with Edwards-Helaire active. Whether or not he plays, if he steals a carry or two, that's fine. But in most of these closing sequences of the season, except for one outlier game, McKinnon's barely getting actual handoff touches, like rushing attempts. So I like the under 20, 21, whatever it is, rushing yards for McKinnon. I like the Eagles' front seven. It's better than I thought it was against the run. I do become a little wary about the linebackers in like the screen game and things like that. So, Pacheco getting 6 targets last week was eye-opening to me. He outsnapped McKinnon. He got 2/3 of the snaps, and I'm wondering what his routes ran were last week, because now we had that discussion, and you think McKinnon should automatically get the pass work, but are they? There's a possibility that Andy Reid maybe gives the rookie a real bell cow opportunity again against the Eagles, and why not? He's been so good. I don't know. Do you have any of those numbers up, Kamish, for the Chiefs backfield last week?
Yep, I am. I'm pulling it up right now. It looks like
if there's a discrepancy in routes ran between Pacheco and McKinnon, I'd be more inclined to look at the Pacheco receiving yards total too again.
Another thing that's interesting here is even just because McKinnon still had 4 targets last week or I guess almost 2 weeks ago now in the conference championship game, but the yards per route run, Pacheco was almost double. So you think about the types of balls that he's getting as well. I'm looking if I can pull up a stat for so Pacheco ran 26 routes last week and McKinnon ran 16 routes.
Woo. I mean, I think there's some merit to looking at the overs for both of them, but that is a massive bump in routes ran for Pacheco off the top of my head than we've seen previously. And his receiving total is at 15 yards, 15 and a half, something like that. So if there's any Achilles heel of this Eagles defense, it's the linebackers, right? I don't know how well they're going to do in pass coverage. Chop said they've been playing a bunch of man, which I think is interesting. Can they? I don't know. How are they going to attack Travis Kelce? Another focal point of our podcast earlier. And you would just think that, time after time, that you have 2 weeks to game plan. Maybe you can contain Travis Kelce. I'm kind of segueing into my tight end receiver thing. Sorry, but
go for it.
He might just be borderline unstoppable, right? But the middle of that Eagles defense, the linebackers. I mean, if you're going to give me 20 Pacheco routes ran, I might actually just hammer his receiving yards prop right now. I really might. Andy Reid's dialing up all kinds of stuff. I think we're going to see more screens than we're accustomed to seeing out of the Chiefs, and that's saying a lot. So,
well, Luch, on that end, just because you mentioned Reid maybe going into his bag and coming out with some interesting play calls, Travis Kelce is obviously the big name in the Kansas City pass catching room, and especially with guys going down. I mean, the Chiefs lost Hardman, Smith-Schuster, and Kadarius Toney in that AFC Championship game. Those guys didn't even practice last week. They returned the last couple of days in limited capacity. Where are you looking at this roster? A guy like Noah Gray, where does he fit into the bag of tricks? And when could we potentially see that? If you have any thoughts on him.
God, just flyer first touchdown props. I mean, ball at the 1 yard line. We see some Statue of Liberty I'm just kidding, play action type, jet sweep action. And then it's Jody Fortson, right? Here's this it's like we're playing DFS Showdown again when the tight ends reign supreme. So, I'm not really looking into those guys outside of complete DFS punts. But Travis Kelce is so integral to your plan when it comes to betting this week, because I do think the Chiefs' success will largely, go hand in hand with the success of Travis Kelce. And, I do think he will eclipse his yardage props, but I think my gut says, and I'm going to bet on the Eagles. I have a little bit of action on. I'm going to heavily bet on the Eagles probably sooner than later. But if Kansas City gets the ball and scores right away, and it's Travis Kelce, I think things are going to get interesting. The Eagles haven't been hit in the mouth in a while. Really, they haven't. Only a few times this year have they really had adversity. They've slept walk through the playoffs, which is great in terms of rest and fatigue, and they've been a little banged up, especially Jalen Hurts. But I kind of like looking at some of these combos that they have. First touchdown score and Travis Kelce to score first, and the Chiefs money line is plus 1,100. I'm willing to put a little action on that. I think the Chiefs, if they strike first, I think their odds increase significantly of winning this game. So Travis Kelce is really interesting to me, and I don't think we leave the Super Bowl without Travis Kelce scoring. He's minus 114, I believe, for an anytime touchdown on Caesars. Got some action on that. I think that's a good bet. But I really do think, the success of Travis Kelce is going to correlate with the Chiefs potentially winning this game or not. I know that sounds pretty obvious, but They're just so banged up. Like Tony and Juju are not 100%. Chop said it best earlier. A lot of these guys just aren't very good at football other than Travis Kelce that Patrick Mahomes is throwing the ball to. So I think Kelce's interesting. I like Dallas Goedert too. We mentioned his name a couple of times here. Wrote him up for RotoGrinders. I think he hits the over in his receiving props, and the blitz agrees with me. I think 45.5 is really low. He's hit this over in 9 of 14 games this season. His target market share across the last 3 games is slightly higher than it's been over the last 2 months. And, the last couple of game scripts were really, really run heavy. So, they've dealt with the blowouts. There really wasn't any reason for them to throw the ball in the second half. Obviously, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown didn't do anything against the 49ers either because they really didn't have to. I don't think that's going to be the case against Kansas City. I was really, really wrong about one thing, and I did mention it earlier too. I really thought the 49ers front seven was going to fare pretty well against the Eagles run game. But since the first snap of that game, I guess, I don't know if I'm using this correctly. I'll have to ask Dean. The Eagles offensive line mollywopped the Niners front seven all game. It was just a clinic. So, you could talk about rushing props, but there's, like Chief said, the Eagles will not commit to one guy in the backfield. So I'm hesitant to bet on Miles Sanders as well. So getting back to Dallas Goedert, I think, he's going to be heavily involved. He's playing just really inspirational football. He's been possessed when he's been catching the ball and running after the catch. He's fantastic. So I think both tight ends are squarely in play. Now, my friend Chief might disagree with me on this, but I'm invested in Devontae Smith this week. Chief happens to think A.J. Brown's going to have the game, and he very well might. But I think Brown's presence has just opened up this offense for Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert so much. I like Devontae over 62.5 receiving yards. It might be 61.5 on some books, and I like him over 4.5 catches as well. To me, it's a no-brainer. It's Philly's gonna have to throw the ball at some point. This game, the consensus here for the most part is it's going to be over 50.5. Should be some points here. Devontae Smith's went over 4.5 catches in 14 of 19 games this season. I don't understand how this line's not at 5.5 on every book. I'm definitely willing to pay the juice on that one. I think it's more than worth the risk. He's had no fewer than 8 targets in any game since the middle of November, except for the thumping against the 49ers, and I'm definitely willing to let that one pass. So Devontae Smith, the numbers speak for itself. He's had an identical target market share as A.J. Brown in the second half of the season, Kamish. So I'm in on Devontae Smith, and I'm here to listen to Chief's rebuttal.
Nick, you got anything before I talk about A.J. Brown?
No, I want to hear what you have to say about A.J. Brown because I think I'm going to piggyback you on the A.J. Brown, and we'll see if there's anything that you leave out.
Well, so here's the thing. If you throw away the last 2 weeks for A.J. Brown, when he essentially wasn't needed to do anything, just like let's just say we just took a magic and just took it away. Against the Giants, 10 targets, 4 catches, 95 yards. The Saints, 9 targets, 4 catches, 97 yards. Dallas, 8 targets, 6 catches, 103. Chicago, 16 targets, 9 catches, 181. Giants again, 6 targets, 4 catches for 70. Tennessee, 10 targets, 8 catches for 119. Green Bay, okay, a little bit of a letdown, 6 for 446. And then Indianapolis, they just had a rough game. I remember that game where Indy was just, rolling. 7 for 5 and 60. And my point is, we've just seen 2 really weird games from A.J. Brown, and the books have over-adjusted, I think, in a game where this should be the most competitive game the Eagles have seen all season. The Eagles are not running away from Kansas City. If they're behind at all in this game, A.J. Brown's going to be heavily involved. I think he's going to get 10 targets regardless because I don't think they're going to be able to get up on Kansas City and then take the air out of the football in the third quarter. I don't see that game script happening. I think this is a tight game all the way down to the end. I don't think it's a field goal game. I think whoever wins by like 4 to 6 points, something like that. I don't think a field goal is going to win this game in the end. I think somebody's going to have to score a touchdown to come out victorious. So if you're telling me that I'm getting A.J. Brown, now listen to this. We got A.J. Brown at 72.5 at the high end on FanDuel, and then 71.5 at BetMGM, Sugar House, DraftKings. And the Kansas City defense has been awful, mostly, all year. And A.J. Brown's the number one guy, biggest game of the year. I think there's going to be an effort to get him involved. And I think I've mentioned this already previously. My hot take is A.J. Brown goes over this number in the first half. I think he's going to clear 70.5 easy first half, because I think he's one big play away off this number. So I love A.J. Brown. I think he's got enough target volume, enough skill, has had enough time off. I don't see how Kansas City stops A.J. Brown in this matchup.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, he could take a 70-yard quick slant to the house, and I'm eating my words because that's what he can do. I don't understand why we haven't seen that more out of Philly this year, when it seems like he was doing it every single game with Ryan Tannehill in the past. And when A.J. Brown went to Philly, I thought, wow, the RPO quick slant bang game is going to be unbelievable. My thought, and I don't hate the A.J. Brown prop line at all, but my thoughts were, if I have two guys, and Devontae Smith will probably have a little bit more favorable coverage than A.J. Brown, I'm going to take the guy whose line's 10 yards less, who has the same exact target market share and is also getting peppered. But I will say this: I think one of these guys is going to have a huge game, Chief.
I think they both do, for what it's worth. If you really want me to be honest, I say, like, seriously, I promise you, I'm taking them both in my parlays. I'm gonna take some Hurts over with these guys. I think Hurts is gonna have to throw the ball this game if they want to win. I don't think he's gonna get away with 11 rushing attempts and like 30 passing attempts. I think they're gonna have to push it if they want to win this game.
I completely agree with you guys. I'm seriously considering, because again, I think it's a little bit of a toss of who it's going to be. I completely agree with Luch. I think Devonta Smith has been just equal target share. He's been fantastic. I'm more interested in his receptions, I think, probably than his yards. But if you're looking at A.J. Brown and you're looking at the home run, I mean, the guy's had 3 touchdowns in a game this season. He's had 3 games with at least 150 receiving yards. And Warren Sharp, I was reading an article earlier this week, the Chiefs, when they've been able to get pressure on the opposing quarterback this season, they have the number 1 EPA in the entire NFL. When they're not able to get pressure on the opposing quarterback, they are dead last 32nd in EPA on the defensive side of the ball. Going against an elite offensive line, the Philadelphia Eagles finished the regular season ranked number 1 in pass blocking efficiency when you're looking at Pro Football Focus. And I know not everybody subscribes to their grading system, but I think just watching the game, it's pretty obvious that they're pretty damn good, right? If they're not the best, they're certainly one of the best. I am strongly considering Smith at 100+ receiving yards. You can get that at plus 410 on FanDuel. And A.J. Brown, 100+ receiving yards at plus 260. You don't need them both to cash to have some fun watching the Super Bowl. You just need one of them. And like you said, Chief, I think it's undeniable that Jalen Hurts is going to have to throw the football in this game. I don't think he's getting out of there with like 150 yards passing. I don't think they're going to be able to run Miles Sanders into the ground. I think the Chiefs are going to be too well prepared for that. They're a well-coached team, and they've taken some major strides over the second half of the season, especially in the run game. So I don't think Philly's going to run for 200 yards in this game, but I do think there's going to be plenty of opportunities to throw the ball down the field. My only real concern is Jalen Hurts has been absolutely terrible since he hurt his shoulder. And if you look at the throws that he's made downfield, they've been wildly inaccurate. Everything's pretty much been within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage. And I think a player like A.J. Brown, because they're not using him as much in the RPO, because they're not trying to get him going in the quick passing game and letting him do some work after the catch, I do wonder, is Smith the better target here from a receptions perspective? And is Brown the guy where you just need to connect once or twice, right? You might have 2 catches for 140 yards in like an outlier type of performance, which happens in the Super Bowl, right? You need a guy to break free, or like we've seen in the postseason already, teams coming out and they take a deep shot in the first play of the game. The Cincinnati Bengals did it a couple of times where the common thought process is we'll come in, we'll run the ball between the tackles, we'll just get everybody's bodies loose, get them hit a couple of times. If you take a shot right away, I mean, Trent McDuffie's played fantastic, but if Trent McDuffie finds himself in man coverage outside on the first play of the game in his rookie season in the Super Bowl,
Take it.
So that's one spot that I'm looking. Chop, do you have any thoughts on the receivers? I mean, do you want to settle a tiebreaker here? Do you think Smith is a better option? Do you think Brown is a better option?
I don't really have. I think one of them is going to have a big game. To sit here and say which one right now, I really can't. I would prefer AJ Brown, like as far as like just overall his size, strength, who he is as a receiver. I like him, but Devontae Smith gets balls that are closer to the line of scrimmage. And one thing I would touch on is what you just said. Is Jalen Hurts they haven't needed him to throw since he came back from the injury, but when he has thrown, he's been bad, man. He's like AJ Brown should have had about an 80-yard touchdown against San Francisco. Missed him by a wide margin for an NFL quarterback. The Devontae Smith fourth down reception, that drive should have been over. He way overshot Devontae, and they got lucky that they didn't review that play. And even on a third down earlier in that drive, he put one in the dirt to A.J. Brown that A.J. Brown somehow pulled off his shoe tops to keep the drive alive, and they eventually scored a touchdown, right? So he hasn't been good. That worries me about Jalen Hurts. 2 weeks. Is he going to feel better? I don't know. Same thing with Mahomes' ankle. Who knows, man? So that's the only thing that scares me is Hurts his shoulder, and he hasn't been good since coming back from the injury. So I'm kind of on the fence about which one of those receivers. Like I might just play it safe and say Dallas Goedert. All the overs on Goedert, right? I won't even break the tie. I'll add a third one in there.
Luch or Chief or Chop or anyone, do you guys have any other receivers that you're taking a look at in this spot that you think are being undervalued or just completely overlooked?
I mean, I'll give you one name, and I mentioned it to the guys earlier. I'll throw it here just for the heck of it. It's not a guy that's overlooked, but I think somewhere out there you can get Quez Watkins 1.5 receptions. Whew, I'm hammering the under there. I'm hammering the under right there because, like Luch said, he may get one pass for 40 yards. So I'm a little leery of the yardage prop, but he needs to get 2 receptions to beat me. There's 2 different Quez Watkins this year. There's Quez Watkins in all these games where Goedert's been healthy, and there's Quez Watkins in that little 4-game stretch where Goedert was out with an injury, or 5 games, I forget. They're 2 different guys right there. He averages under 2 targets a game with Dallas Goedert healthy in that lineup. In 11 of those 15 games where Goedert played, Quez got 2 targets or less. Most of them were like 0 targets, 1 target. So here's a guy, more than likely, he's going to have to catch his only 2 targets that get thrown to him to beat me on this prop right here. I like the Quez Watkins under 1.5 receptions.
Yeah, he didn't even see a target in the divisional round, and then last week he saw only 1 target. But as you said, the yardage, if he does catch that 1 target, it had a depth of 33 yards. So if he did come down with it, he could have had 1 catch for 35 yards, or if he would have taken it to the bank, it could have been much longer. So that was my guy that I was going to zero in. I think like with Quez, it's the under 1.5. I think is a good look, especially with how little he's been on the field recently. But I also think if you're not 100% confident in the under 1.5, I think you could hit the under 1.5, and you could also hit the over 10.5 and limit your exposure, because I think it's highly, highly improbable that he ends up with 2 catches for less than 10 yards or less than 11 yards on that spot. So it could be a spot where it's sort of a unique way. It's not really playing a middle, but where you could fade a guy and invest in a guy in the same game, take the over on the yardage and under on the 1.5. Or again, if you believe in Watkins, I think we're aligned there. I definitely would take the over on the yardage. And if you don't believe in him, I think I would absolutely take the under 1.5 catches.
Or like
you might
said,
hit them both.
He's not going to catch two passes for 8 yards, right? He's going to catch something long or nothing at all. So we could actually hit that one big play for, like you said, 33 yards, and then that's all he does for the whole game. And we've hit it both ways. I kind of like to try to middle that thing and hit it both ways.
Yeah, and one more guy, Chop brought him up for DFS purposes earlier. Kadarius Toney, 2.5 receptions. It was even money earlier, and that baby's moving. We're starting to get some juice on the over. His role's kind of unknown. I think he has to be a big part of this offense for the Chiefs to succeed. there just aren't a ton of playmakers, and he's like the most gadgety guy that they have. He did see some volume a couple games ago. You know, he's been dealing with an injury too, and he should be good to go. I like the odds of Kadarius Toney catching at least 3 passes on Sunday. So I think that's interesting. And there isn't really a lot of long-term historical data for the books to go off of because he's missed so much time or he just hasn't played. But I like him in this spot.
On that note, I'm curious, you guys, because we mentioned Mahomes' passing yardage earlier just keeps going up and up and up. But then you look down the board, and other than Travis Kelce, you have Schuster, you could get as low as 36.5, MVS as low as 35.5. Tony, you just mentioned, Luch at 25.5, McKinnon's at 20, Justin Watson's at 15, Pacheco's at 15, Gray's at 10.5. Like, these are not guys that are going to be equally involved, right? Patrick Mahomes is not going to have completions to 12 different receivers, and they're all going to have 15 or 20 yards in the game. If you had to bet on one of these guys to go big, who are you taking a look at?
There's just a lot of names I'm not willing to put my American dollars on in that list.
Yeah, I should say other than Sky Moore, because it absolutely should not be Sky Moore, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Noah Gray everyone has found a role once in a while in specific game plans, and I don't really have anything like to back that up with. But some of those tight end screens that picked up a couple chunks weren't all Travis Kelce. It was Noah Gray, putting his ugly head in the mix there and taking some Kelce yards too. So I guess if you're holding a gun in my head, it would be Noah Gray.
I'm not playing this prop, but I'm saying his fantasy point prop for those of you that get on some of the alternate sites like Prize Picks and stuff like that. You get him at like 0.5 fantasy points in the first half, and literally he just catches one ball for like 3 yards and he's over every week. It's insane.
Or he's the 2% own min price ish tight end that catches the 3-yard touchdown and he's optimal, so you could jam everyone else in. Totally could happen.
Yeah,
it's feasible.
I think for me, because you did ask about the receivers. So it's weird, right? Because you see Mahomes passing yards every week, and Kelce has like 80, and everybody else has like 30. And it's so weird. I think if I had to go with one guy, I think it's MVS for what it's worth. Like, he feels like the most healthy out of the bunch, but honestly, it's one of those spots where I'm just willing to play Mahomes props and Kelce props and fade everybody else in terms of yardage. But I don't know which one of these guys really is gonna get it done.
I would not blame you. Chop, do you have any thoughts?
On a Mahomes pass receiver?
Yeah, if there's one guy outside of Kelce that...
Outside of Kelce, so the guys they've mentioned, the Noah Grays, and none of these guys are like going to break things down. Like maybe Kadarius Toney could get multiple touchdowns. He's like, but he's going to hang around the line of scrimmage too. I don't think they'll be going downfield to him. And Juju, I don't know what's wrong with him, man. He's just not been particular. If I would say that is there one other pass catcher that could blow up for Mahomes outside of Kelce, I think it might be McKinnon. I think that's going to be part of the game plan to really defeat those ends coming off the edge real fast and hard for Philly is swing it out to the running back. I know Pacheco has, we talked about routes running all that earlier, but I would still take McKinnon to catch a swing pass out of the backfield for a huge gain in this game over Pacheco, in my opinion. So he's the one guy outside of Kelce that I think could be an absolute put up a monster game. Monster games I don't see coming from any of the other guys. Like they could be good and they could be adequate, but I think McKinnon, in the right scenario, he could be a monster out of the backfield.
We shall see. I know we're coming up on an hour here. Anyone have any thoughts on these defenses or a defensive prop? Like, I know we talked about the sacks earlier. Anyone specifically that you're targeting for a sack or an interception before we get into our MVP picks and maybe a final score prediction for this game?
I haven't dug completely to The defensive ones, you just gonna have to. I'll get there once we get to Tennessee on Saturday. It's on. But if you can find this one right now, I do like the Chiefs to convert a fourth down. If that's out there anywhere, like that's one I'm on for sure. The Chiefs to convert a fourth down at any point in this game. And I know this is really getting into the weeds. If they've got anything out there like more than 2.5 people to throw a pass, like I'm taking the over on that. We already know there's going to be some trick play. Somebody's going to throw like something like that as well. But I haven't checked. Those are just weird things I've been thinking about that I'm going to dive into later in the week.
No, I don't have anything defensive, but and I know I'll save my MVP talk for that. But in terms of weird stuff and a novelty shot or two, I think a very interesting thing to do on DraftKings, jersey number over or under 11 and a half to score the first touchdown. Okay, if you take the under jersey number here, this is ridiculous. I love it though. If you take the under, you get AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, Jerick McKinnon, Pacheco, MVS, and Juju. If you don't take the under, you're leaving out Travis Kelce. So I kind of like betting that because you have a ton of outs, but also hedging that with Kelce to score the first touchdown at plus 700. I don't know. I was kind of going on the fly there. I've never seen that one before. I think it's kind of interesting. I guess it's not. Two other ones, I don't know what you consider. I don't know if they're novelty props, but I just consider them stuff I normally wouldn't bet on, but they're interesting. Game-winning field goal as time expires. We all think this game's going to be close, right? One score, maybe a field goal. Doesn't it just feel right? Plus 1,000 on DK. On the podcast earlier, I was showing my love for Harrison Butker, who was the fourth highest field goal percentage of all time. I think that's fun. I don't know if I'm going to invest in it, but I think it's fun. And, we talked about a couple Eagles receivers who could have big games. We talk about Travis Kelce, obviously, who should see a ton of volume. But with how split the Eagles' target market share has been, with the lack, with Mahomes' willingness to spread the ball around, I should say, is it possible no one in this game has 100 yards receiving? I mean, we don't have anybody projected. The Blitz has nobody projected for 90. Shout out to Derek Carty and your awesome system, by the way. It's plus 290 for, we can have a couple 90-yard games. I think it's definitely possible that no one has 100 yards in this game, and we still see, a fairly high-scoring game in this one. So I think at plus 290 is kind of interesting.
That would be interesting. It would be interesting to see how many points we could get without a 100-yard receiver in this game.
Yeah.
If Quez Watkins catches a stupid 50-yard bomb, then, you just need some garbage like that.
Yeah.
Chop, what about you? Any novelty props or anything a little bit off the board that you definitely wouldn't be considering in a regular season game, might not even be available in a regular season game that you're taking a look at?
I mean, I'm not betting this stuff, but I've got some pretty good history here of the Gatorade colors that they dump on the coaches, and Chief, you might
Gatorade data.
3 of the last 4 Super Bowls they dump blue Gatorade on them. So I don't. But then we got the Eagles.
Analytics, by the way. This is what when you hear that term thrown around. Yeah, this is what that is.
This is what it is. The last Super Bowl the Eagles won, it was yellow green, and for the NFC Championship 2 weeks ago, it was yellow green. So if you like the Eagles, you might want to go yellow green on your Gatorade dump.
Yeah, I like it. I think I've got one. This novelty. I don't consider it novelty, but it's an outlier. I just think we got good odds on it. And you can get this one at BetMGM. Just in terms of interceptions, you're getting Jalen Hurts at plus 115. And look, man, this is the Super Bowl. We've talked about some of his inaccuracies. And, interceptions are weird, man. One tip at the line, ball in the air, bam. Interception. The quarterback didn't really do anything. It's just a lineman tipped it. So I'm going to get in on that one just at plus size at plus 115. That's one I'm on as well.
The Chiefs finished the regular season 5th best defensively interception rate as well, for what that's worth.
Yes,
Plus
sir.
money. I hate that. Well, guys, let's get into the MVP talk here. Last 21 Super Bowls, quarterbacks have dominated, but I don't think as much as the general public thinks. I think every year people are like, who's going to win the Super Bowl? And everybody's of course, it's going to be a quarterback. Only 13 times in the last 21 years, so about 62% of the time has it been a quarterback. We've seen a receiver win it 5 times, and then we've seen a defensive player win the award 3 times in that span. The market in this particular game is screaming just Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes. Everybody else, if you're looking at MVP odds, whether it's on Fanduel or on DraftKings, has, except for Travis Kelce, or even Travis Kelce now is regressed to 16-1. So Kelce is the next shortest odds at 16-1, and then AJ Brown at 18-1, and then you get into the running backs and some other defensive players and people like that at 25-1 and longer. I guess we'll go Luch first, and then we can go Chop, and then Chief. Who are you going with for Super Bowl MVP this Sunday?
I don't want to just list a quarterback, but you broke down some of those positional numbers. As far as I've seen, unless I'm wrong, we've never seen a tight end win the award ever. Travis Kelce's one of a kind. He is the number one threat there. 16-1 on FanDuel. I mean, if Mahomes throws 2 touchdowns and they both go to Kelce and they win, it's really not as far fetched as as it seems.
What if he catches 3? That's my thoughts. If Kelce catches 3 touchdowns, like, he's automatically MVP, right? Like, how do you guys feel like that? That's my question. Because he catch 2 or 3 touchdowns in a couple of games this season. If he catches, what's like his threshold? If he catches 2, he's in the running, and they gotta win. Obviously, they gotta win. If he catches 3, don't you think he's like surefire MVP if they win? That's my question to you guys. Just right off the top with us getting them at plus 1,600. Like, what's your thoughts?
What if he catches 3 and Mahomes throws 4? The NFL loves Mahomes. Like, then what?
He definitely has the hero narrative as well, playing on one leg. No matter how healthy he is, he could be 95% healthy. This narrative has already been established that he's limped off the field a couple of times, that he got pushed off. He got hit late in that final drive against Cincinnati. So I think the narrative is there definitely for Mahomes. But to answer your question, Chief, I think if you look at all the different pass catchers that have won this award across the last 2 decades, Cooper Kupp had 2 touchdowns last year, 92 yards, so not quite to the century mark. Julian Edelman had 10 catches for 141 yards, so just high volume receiving in a relatively a game where Brady didn't come out and dominate, right? He didn't throw for 5 touchdowns, anything like that. And then some of the other guys, if you go back a little bit earlier into the 2000s, Antonio Holmes had over 130 yards and a touchdown. Hines Ward had over 100 yards and a touchdown. Deion Branch had 11 catches for 133 yards. So typically what's had to happen as a pass catcher is you either have to go well over the century mark, so 120 or more yards, or you have to have multiple touchdowns. And in a situation like Cooper Kupp last year, he had 2 touchdowns, but Stafford also turned the ball over a couple of times. So I think if Travis Kelce has 2 touchdowns and Mahomes has 3 passing touchdowns, I think you're right. Like, Kelce's in the running there, but I think Mahomes probably gets it when you think about the narrative and some of the other storylines going around the game. But if Kelce has 2 of his 3 touchdowns and Mahomes also turns the ball over a couple of times, and Kelce already also has, let's say, 8 catches and his yardage is pretty high up there, I think he could absolutely be the first guy to get it done. Because the other thing is we haven't seen tight ends like Travis Kelce on a year-to-year basis, right? It looks like, we've never had a tight end win this award. Well, it's hard to win for any pass catcher to win this award. It's particularly difficult for a tight end because the tight end is usually not the top pass catching option on the team. And when we've had elite tight ends like Rob Gronkowski, who played in a few Super Bowls, he's got Tom Brady throwing for multiple touchdowns or setting records, or there's other receivers on the roster that are able to complement the game plan. In this situation, the Chiefs are hobbling at receiver. They have Kelce and what else, right? We just don't know at this point. And like we've talked about, there could be 6 guys on the Chiefs that have 30 yards, and then if Kelce has 80 or 90 and 2 scores, Mahomes would have to have a pretty impressive stat line, in my opinion, to get the job done in that spot.
Yeah, it's doable. And but lastly, I guess, and then I'll pass it off to whoever. But I guess my long shot, like 10th unit maybe, is Chris Jones. And we talked about Jalen Hurts not looking right. We talked about him taking 40 sacks this season. I know the Eagles' offensive line is really good. Chris Jones is an animal. 15 and a half sacks this season, a couple forced fumbles. And we saw Von Miller win it a couple seasons ago. You know, if he has 3 sacks and scoops up a fumble recovery and scores, I mean, if it's not as a high-scoring game as we seem to think it is, you know, anything's possible. That one needs to be kind of a storybook game script, though. But that's why it's a long shot, I suppose.
Good stuff. Chop, what do you have for us? Where are you looking on the MVP market?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the MVP market this year. I think if Kansas City were to win this game, it's already you really have to do something wild to take it away from Mahomes. I think he's already got such clout with the voters that you have to go crazy to take it away from him if KC wins. He's plus 130, Mahomes. How can I bet Mahomes? I might as well just bet the money line for the Chiefs, right? That doesn't make any sense. So I don't want that. Kelsey, yeah, okay, maybe, but I don't think realistically anybody's going to take it away from Mahomes if he has even a decent day. So I don't want to mess with that. Now on the other side, maybe Philly wins, and if that's the case, I'm not doing this number for Jalen Hurts. No, he can really, he hasn't looked great, so there's no reason why he's the predetermined favorite to get the award for Philly. So I would take one of the receivers. I'm looking at the odds on the receivers. If I'm not mistaken, Devontae is far better odds than A.J. Brown. So I'd just take a big long shot on Devontae Smith if I was going to bet one guy in this game to win MVP.
Yep, on FanDuel, Smith is 31-1 and A.J. Brown is 18-1. So you're almost doubling the payout there if you go with Smith and you do hit on that. What about you, Chief? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, for me, if I'm going to take one, Kelsey's in the mix for sure. And I can't like A.J. Brown and then don't take A.J. Brown. I think the Eagles are going to win. Get A.J. at plus 1,800 on FanDuel feels really good to me, especially if he has a nuke game. Like if A.J. goes 150, 2 touchdowns, 7 catches, something like that, and, Hurts has a not explosive game, but somewhat pedestrian. Let's say Hurts goes for 10 rushes, 40 yards and a touchdown, but he's thrown for like 220, and AJ's got the bulk of the work. Like at plus 1,800, I like it. But then on the flow, if you have where did he go? Jeez. Is Devontae Smith on this thing? He should have been. At any rate, I don't see him right now. But if you like Devontae, then I think you could get in on that as well for MVP. But those are kind of my MVP ones. I'm with Chop. Eagles minus 1.5 is one of my bigger ones.
For me, I agree with Chop. I think it's going to be next to impossible to take the award away from Mahomes. Once you get the Warrior narrative going, Travis Kelce would have to have an unprecedented stat line. And again, I think Mahomes would have to turn the ball over a couple of times or just play really poorly. And it looks like the perception would then be that Kelce bailed them out in that situation. That being said, the article that I did do on Fantasy Labs detailing the Super Bowl MVP market, I did go with A.J. Brown as my long shot in this spot for the reasons that you just mentioned, Chief. The guy has the potential to go nuclear. He's proven it on multiple occasions this year with 150-plus receiving yards, which, again, satisfies that criteria. You either are going to need well north of 100 receiving yards, multiple touchdowns, or some combination of both of those. There was a game this year that he literally had 156 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. Yep. And, again, playing a Kansas City defense that has been absolutely abysmal when they're not able to get pressure on the opposing quarterback, and you're going against one of the best offensive lines in the league. If Jalen Hurts is even remotely healthy and he can just connect on 1 or 2 of those deep balls, I think it's a worthwhile long shot. That being said, I still think the quarterbacks are the safer picks in this spot. And I know that sounds less sexy, but Jalen Hurts just has so much ability to make plays with his legs, and playing a Kansas City defense that has not been particularly elite against mobile quarterbacks and hasn't played a ton of elite offenses this season. I could see Jalen Hurts having a rather pedestrian passing stat line with, let's say, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then he adds another score with maybe 60 yards on the ground or something like that. If Jalen Hurts is able to get to like 300 combined passing and rushing yards with 3 scores in combination with his legs and through the air, I think it's going to be hard to take it away from him too, right? Because he's got the narrative of this revenge narrative or whatever you want to call it, where he went from is he the future of the Eagles to all of a sudden he's got the Eagles in the Super Bowl and they haven't lost with him healthy this season. So AJ Brown is my long shot, but I think it's going to be difficult for me to go against Jalen Hurts if you are betting the Eagles in this spot. But I'm also with Chop. This is not a market that I'm going to lay anything heavy into. I think this is just a fun spot. If you have some fun money laying around, this is something that maybe you throw a few dollars towards.
I think maybe you're onto something there, and I think it's we talking through this, Chief. We talked about all the volume that AJ Brown's getting, all the volume that Devontae Smith's getting. These guys are accounting for like 60% of the target market share, and then it's Dallas Goedert, as Chop was talking about quite a bit today. Is basically those 3 guys, and none of these books have a 6.5 reception line on any of them, and they're split between 5.5 and 4.5. So I guess with all the volume, and we have no one with reception totals, no consensus 5.5 lines on any of those 3 guys, and nobody at 6.5. Maybe go hand in hand with what you're talking about a little bit there, Commish, that maybe Hurts has kind of a pedestrian game through the air, or maybe slightly above average, and gets done with his legs. And we also talked about that maybe he's just not still right. So interesting stuff there with, a lot of hesitation across all the sports books to really not put any one of these guys at 5.5, despite the crazy volume and the stranglehold on the target market share those 3 guys have in the Eagles teams. As we talked about, Quez Watkins is like one catch boomer bust.
The real question is how many of those bombs would Quez Watkins have to catch to win Super Bowl MVP? He's at I don't even know if he's 120-1 to win MVP today. So if you're betting the over 1.5 receptions, you might as well just go and bet him to win Super Bowl MVP, because if he has 2 catches for 160 yards, he's going to throw his hat in the ring.
I'd rather bet on the worst golfer at the Waste Management Open at 120-1.
I'd rather bet on Mecole Hardman and just hope a 0 gets the MVP.
Some other long shot lines. I know, Luch, you mentioned that you have an affinity for Harrison Butker. He's 280-1. If it just turns into a field goal game, they can't get into the end zone. That would probably be the wildest game script that we would ever see in Super Bowl history. If a kicker ever legitimately threatened to win the award, like 8 field goals or 9 field goals or something like that, would be absolutely insane. Guys, any other thoughts on the player prop market? Anything related to this game? Otherwise, we'll go around the horn once, just final score predictions, and we'll get out of here.
I'm good.
Cool. Well, Chief, you want to start us off then? What do you got? I know you're on the Eagles -1.5. What's your final score prediction?
31-27 Eagles.
Luch?
30-28 Birds.
Chop?
31-24 Chiefs.
Contrarian. I think right now I'm leaning Eagles. I think I'm going 30-24 Birds in this spot. I think it goes over. And I think Philly.
We're all pretty close though. We all got about the same idea about the game in the end, like one way or the other. Yeah, I like it.
Cool. Well, appreciate you guys having me on. Looking forward. I don't know if you guys are gonna be in Nashville this weekend, but looking forward to enjoying the game and hanging out with you guys. And appreciate everybody who tuned in. I'm sure this will have plenty of playback over the next few days. And if you guys have questions, I know all of us are on Twitter. Feel free to reach out. Hit us with questions in the comments. All of that good stuff. But other than that, I know we have some articles that are out there right now. I know we had I think Charlie had a novelty props article that he had put out there. I know I have some content on each individual player prop market that we're putting out Fantasy Labs, going market by market, QBs, running backs, receivers, tight ends, stuff like that. Any other work that you guys want to plug before we get out of here? Food for Thought podcast. Check that
Food
out.
for Thought
Every
podcast.
week. Go back and listen to the old ones too. Those are just great conversations. Skip to the end if you just want the food recommendations.
No, we have a ton of Super Bowl content. I know you're modest, but you're pumping out. I got a lot of good work Super Bowl wise for us too. Props and picks, the whole nine. We have a couple of staff best bets articles coming out on Scores and Odds and on RotoGrinders. So if you want to see some more from Chop and Chief and the rest of the crew, just stick with RG and Scores and Odds and hit that like button, like and subscribe, and check out Food for Thought. That's all I got for you.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you guys as always. It's always fun getting in here and chopping it up, especially last game of the football season. Hopefully we get to do this a lot more again next year. Like you said, maybe a draft special or something like that. But we'll get out of here. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Like, subscribe, all of those good things. And we'll see you soon. Good luck on your bets this weekend.